It's weird.
G-Mac, how you doing this morning?
Yeah, buddy. What's happening?
Tuesday, November 12th, Jocks 94.5. We got a lot to get to today. We've got some injury news around college football, specifically the SEC. That's going to be a little bit problematic. We've got some Auburn news as they're going to be back on the field this weekend. Some interesting news from practice last week that Hugh Freeze sort of filled us in on. We'll update you on that. Also, college football playoff ranking show tonight. G-Mac will be a part of that one. Get an idea of maybe where this thing's going to go. What do we expect? Quickly, there's a part of this, Greg, that I think you've done this a couple of times. I think before the season, you said, like, let's rewind a little bit and kind of revisit this entire thing. I'm going to lay this out for folks because I've kind of made fun of, Bill Palladino, our producer on our game, in the last couple of weeks, whatever the random survey is that ESPN has sent out, that 82% of people don't even know that there's going to be 12 teams in the playoff, and 90% of people don't even know that college football is a real thing anymore, whatever the hell we talk about. But he wants us to kind of, we got to keep hammering this. We got to keep hammering this. And I've kind of been making fun of him. And I've heard a couple of people say some things that I've taken a little bit of a step back. So I'm just going to say this and see if you think you understand where I'm going. College football playoff criteria. All right, folks. The 5 highest ranked conference champions get in. The 4 highest ranked conference champions get a bye. Do you see the part of that I left out that you probably think I should have included? Not you, Greg, but people listening. I still don't think people quite understand the exact parameters of who is definitively getting in, guaranteed a spot, and who is going to be guaranteed a bye, G-Mac.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge, and I think that there's a doomsday scenario where the SEC champion doesn't get a bye. So people just automatically think that the Boise States of the world, or if Boise loses in Mountain West Championship, guess what? There's no guarantees that a Sun Belt team won't get in. I mean, it could be anybody. Anybody that wins a conference championship. So in a pool of 10, the 5 best will get in the college football playoff. So, and it doesn't guarantee that team's in the 12 seed. I've heard a lot of people say, well, being the 5 seed's most advantageous. You can just play Boise, dust off, everything, get a home playoff game, and then you play the Big 12 champion. Perfect. There's no guarantee that Boise is the 12th seed.
We did it on Read and React last night. And I had to hammer it.
Did you explain to Roman
There's
how
no
things
explaining. Nothing needs to be explained. There's a wake-up call that needs to happen. Like, he needed to be put in his place. And I felt like I tried. I don't know. But he doesn't lose an argument. So it doesn't really matter. But he still believes that the 5th seed is the most advantageous seed in this tournament. I got a guy tweeting me that watched the show last night. He goes, I don't know what you're talking about. It's not fewer games. Guy, I can't help you, man. I can't help you. If you don't know that the 4 teams in the top 4 are going to get a bye, I can't.
He's probably saying is you don't play in the SEC championship game, but
that's not an elimination game.
It's not.
I guess it's good. I guess it's good that we're having this conversation then, because there's a lot of people that don't know what's happening.
Well, there's a lot of people that think that if you get to the SEC championship game, you're guaranteed a spot. And I don't think that's the case, because if you look at how this thing could shake out, it could very easily be Bama LSU in the SEC title game. If chalk flies, by the way, that's 100% possible. Bama LSU SEC title game. LSU beats Bama. LSU becomes one of the 5 guaranteed spots. Then Bama with 3 losses, probably in. But LSU with 3 losses right now and a loss in the SEC championship game, that would give them 4 losses. I don't think they'd be in. Over a potential 2-loss Ole Miss team, probably not. So I think it's something worth monitoring.
But I do also think, Greg, I think that there are a lot of people out there that believe that those top 4 seeds are going to power conferences: ACC, SEC, Big 10, Big 12. I don't. You tried to clarify that a couple weeks ago when you ran your scenario for Boise to be the 4 seed, and I think there were a couple people that were confused then. But I still think that there are a lot of folks that think that those top 4 spots are specifically for what we would used to have called the Power Five conference. And that's not necessarily the case.
People just they need to understand Boise and BYU, the highest ranked Big 12 team and the highest ranked G5 team right now. There's 3 spots apart. 3 spots apart. BYU is at 9. This is as of last week, using last week's rankings. Boise's at 12. Boise's lost a game and is only 3 spots behind an undefeated BYU. So do I think BYU will move up? Probably, but I think Boise will probably move up too.
When you only lost is a tight game to number 1, you're in pretty good spot.
Yeah, I'd say so too. So if BYU were to lose a game, I mean, they are a 3-point favorite this week. BYU next week at Arizona State might be an underdog. If BYU were to lose a game at some point in the next 2 weeks and still win the Big 12, do you think they're going to be ahead of Boise? No, probably not. So that means BYU is going to be somewhere between 5 and 7 in the rankings, 5 and 12 in the rankings, but it does not guarantee that they're 12. It only guarantees that they're in. So this whole I got to play for the 5th seed thing is the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard in my life. Like, at least I know for certain what my path looks like if I am the number 1 overall seed or the number 2 overall seed. Like, winning the conference matters still, but I will admit these tiebreakers are really turning me off on conference championships. Like, I know they're a big moneymaker and all that. Fine. Let's just cut to the chase and we'll do a 6-team SEC tournament against a 16 Big 10 tournament or an 8-team, however many you want to do. And then the winner of the SEC plays the winner of the Big 10 and we call that the national championship. Like, what are we wasting our time for? Like if it's all about crowning a conference champion and that's so important and we have to protect that, by God, if we don't, we're dead. Then let's just cut to the chase and just have a playoff format inside the SEC and the Big 10 and crown a conference championship from that group. Oh, well, that's not fair. What about TCU and Miami? And like, I understand that. And maybe Miami and Clemson will get an invitation someday, but this conference championship thing, man, it used to be really, really important, but in the SEC and the Big 10, it doesn't matter anymore. At least I don't think it does. Not like it once did.
No, it's interesting to just kind of think about it and look at it. And I think the main reason that I bring this up and that kind of to follow up where you're going with this is, I don't think that there's a lot of people that believe that the Big 12 can be completely left out or the ACC can be completely left out. Now, I don't think there's a lot of scenarios where Big 10, SEC looks like they're going to be left out of this. That's just not like a real thing right now. But there are scenarios where the ACC, the Big 12 could be left out of this playoff. It's feasible. So
it's unlikely,
but feasible. And that's what I don't even think some people realize that it's feasible, Greg. That's why I felt like we needed to have this conversation today.
Yes, there's nothing in the rule book that guarantees the Big 12 a spot. It only guarantees a spot for the top 5 conference championship winners. And if that's undefeated Army with a win over Notre Dame and a 1-loss Boise State with their 1 loss coming to Oregon, when being measured against a 2-loss ACC champ or a 2-loss Big 12 champ, they could very easily jump them. I think it's unlikely, but I think it could absolutely happen.
So think about it this way. Army, obviously a lot more respect in the AP poll. 16 this week.
They absolutely do not deserve to be in the college football playoff top 25. It's great that Army's a good story. I called Navy a couple weeks ago. I think Notre Dame will handle Army. It'll be fine, and we won't have to worry about anything anymore, but it's an abomination. They don't have any wins that are of any quality whatsoever. But I digress.
They are where they are, and that puts them in the vicinity, along with Boise at 13, of the top 2 teams in the ACC. Miami at 12 and SMU at 14. If you wanted to go by the All-State playoff predictor, there's a 9% chance the Big 12 won't send a team to the playoffs, 6% chance the ACC will not have a team in the playoff. Once again, I bring this up just because I don't think that a lot of folks believe that this is even a possible reality. Not saying it's going to happen or we think it's going to happen, but it could. And that's why I think it's just at least needed to get it out there and talk about it as the second round of the 12-team college football playoff rankings will be out tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad we did because I do think it's possible. But, people don't really listen to us. I remember, gosh, probably 3 ranking shows in. Like 3 ranking shows in, I started saying, I'm just telling you, look out. Alabama just, absolutely worked whoever, and they have 1 loss, and Jordan Travis just got hurt. Like, I'm just telling you, Alabama is not dead yet. That's all I'm saying. Alabama's not dead yet. They could certainly make the playoffs still. No one wanted to hear that. They just wanted to point to my Alabama bias and how how I, Greg McElroy, am trying to find a way to get Alabama in the playoff, because that is my, outside of professionalism, my only goal is to make sure Bama gets in the playoff. That's all I care about, ever. Not about my career, not about my profession, not about the paycheck I bring home every Thursday, but only about getting Alabama in the playoff. So when I brought that to everyone's attention last year, no one wanted to talk about it. No one wanted to acknowledge it. No one wanted to think that it was possible. No one wanted to acknowledge the fact that I told you there was about a 4-way train crisscross that was about to happen, and we're about to have a complete train wreck on selection day about 2 or 3 ranking shows in. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened, and nobody wanted to see it coming. Nobody wanted to acknowledge it. Oh, it'll work itself out. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, it'll work itself out, and people are going to think that there's some conspiracy to keep out a blue blood program at Florida State. Like, that's where people have now arrived. So when we tell you this is possible, this is possible. Whether you like it or not, or whether you choose to absorb the information or not, is up to you. It is possible. I think it's unlikely. I think it's possible. I think there is a possibility that Texas could be 10-2 and outside the playoff for sure if they lose to Texas A&M. That A&M game for Texas is likely a playoff game, whether you like it or not. And they're going to be bumped they could go from 1st place in the SEC to 8th place in the SEC if a couple random results happen down the stretch. Think about that possibility. So it could happen, and everyone needs to be prepared for it.
Yeah, it's just wild to think about that. That's sort of where we are, and I just don't think a lot of people have an understanding of how this thing is going to work. And maybe just that if you were to go by the AP rankings right now, that's a little bit of a dangerous practice. I get that. I understand that. But it makes it appear to be even closer to that being a reality. Miami's at 12. Boise's 13. Army's at 16. So SMU's at 14 in the AP poll. Now, I get it. That's not going to translate necessarily to what the rankings are going to look like tonight, but just something to sort of keep tabs on. Pay attention to.
Yeah, worth noting.
There's no doubt. So,
and Miami, by the way, them being at 12, bit of an overreaction on last week's game. I mean, come on.
Okay, let's play the game that you played with Army, and I don't think it's to the extent, but how many really good wins do they have?
Louisville.
Okay, that's a pretty good win. Florida's not a terrible win. I'll give you credit for going on the road early.
Florida's under 500 now. I think you got to remove Florida from the good win category. But I do think when you beat a team that is 6-3 and their 3 losses were by 1 score or less, to me, Louisville at their place, by the way, on the road, that's a good win. So while I know that they've been playing with their food, still have to acknowledge Louisville as a good win. Duke's also 6-3. I don't think they were a very real 6-3, but those are 2 solid wins.
Yeah,
Whereas
I'll give you 2 solid wins, but not
okay.
Not like
well, Army's best win is North Texas at 5-4 and East Carolina at 5-4. Who fired their coach?
Well, I'm not tooting the horn for Army today, so I get it. I'm with you there.
I'll tell you what's a bigger issue is Texas. Texas sits there, same record as Miami. And Texas's best win is against 6-4 Vandy, who might finish 7-5, who might finish 6-6. I don't know how they're going to finish. All I know is that when your best win 6-4 Vandy, that's a problem. Same with Penn State. Their best win 6-3 Illinois. Like, it's a problem. Like, there's a lot of discrepancy in the rankings, and I'm not some Miami homer. All I'm saying is Miami, if they free fall into the 10s, into double-digit rankings this weekend, based off their performance this weekend, I think that is an egregious overstep, given some of the teams that have a lot of clout in front of them, a la Penn State and Texas.
Is it Vandy for Texas?
Well, if you want to say Colorado State, that's fine. But
all I'm saying is it's worth a discussion at least.
It is worth the discussion. I think it's totally fair. But if Colorado State is one of your best wins, we are further highlighting the problem.
If you wanted to make the argument of brand recognition doing more for a team, I think Texas would be the first Ziploc bag of evidence that you would present to the jury.
Yes. And I got another one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Clemson. You want to see a disgusting resume? Look up Clemson's resume. Best win, 5-4 Virginia. Every other team they've played is 500 or worse. And the two losses happen to come against the two teams they've played with a pulse. Louisville, who beat them 31-12, and it wasn't even that close. And Georgia, who beat them 34-3. So Texas and Clemson are the most egregious offenders, in my opinion.
And I mean, with Clemson, we're arguing about a team ranked 17. So but some of those are going to be just out of whack. We get it.
I'm just saying, they shouldn't be ranked.
Well, at least they got South Carolina in there this week. They figured that out.
Yeah.
The AP did. So they finally
South Carolina should be 18 if Clemson's as high as they are.
Finally came to their senses on that one. We'll give them credit for it. Either way.
It was the Vandy win that pushed them over the top.
Yeah, it's just some of tonight is going to be interesting. And there are going to be people that say, hey, it doesn't matter. It's, no big deal, whatever. But it does matter. Right. And it is going to be interesting because I think that there are a lot of different reasons that you look at this and say, all right, I want to know who you move around. I want to know why you move them around. And it does make a difference. So we'll see tonight. I want to talk a little bit more about the college football playoff, things with it moving forward on the other side of the break. But my friends at Royal Automotive want to help you experience how car buying should be. With 4 Royal-owned dealerships in one location, the selection and savings are unmatched. Royal is the only place to find over 20 unique truck and SUV options in one spot. Right now, get up to $15,000 off select 2024 GMC Sierra models. Sign, then drive with 0 down, 0 security deposit, 0 first month's payment, and 0 due-it signing on select Volkswagen Atlas, Tiguan, and Taos models. Costco members can get an additional rebates up to $2,000 on select Volvo XC40, XC60, and XC90 models. Go see my friends at Royal. They'll help you get the best deal available. All offers valid through December 2nd. Certain restrictions apply. Royal Buick GMC, Royal Volkswagen, Royal Automart, Volvo Cars of Vestavia Hills, all at the corner of I-65 and Highway 31 of Vestavia. Online at royalautomotive.net. Make Royal your first and last stop when car shopping. And remember, for every ride, there's Royal. I have a question about the college football playoff and teams that might be in it. We'll discuss it next right here on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you guys tuning in. 7:21, Tuesday, November 12th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Mentioned that Greg would be back on college football playoff rankings show tonight. And a couple questions I wanted to get to just on the college football playoff. When you look at last weekend, of the teams that had a good weekend, had a bad weekend, who do you think lost the most? Who do you think gained the most this past weekend in college football, GMAC?
Well, I think lost the most. Miami would probably be among the group that I would consider lost the most. LSU would be big just because of how they lost. So those would probably be the top two. I don't think Georgia can fall too far, partly because they already have that win over Texas. I do think they'll fall. I just don't think they're going to fall as many spots as a Miami or as an LSU.
Also have a win over Clemson, who we may believe that that's a bit of fool's gold, but you said earlier that the committee seems to think that they think highly of Clemson. We'll see tonight how that stands. The AP poll obviously still feels pretty good about Clemson, so that would be one that you would place there. As far as gained the most this past weekend, who would you throw into that mix as far as maybe who gained the most? Would it have to be Ole Miss?
Probably, because now they have that win. And honestly, it's unfortunate for Ole Miss that their game against South Carolina was watched by as few people as it was watched by, because that game got sideways in a hurry, so I don't think a lot of people paid attention to it. And it was kind of a game that was lost in the shuffle, but that was a convincing and dominant victory. So that, I think, is working against Ole Miss. Nobody saw that game, and that is impacting how they're being perceived. But I'll be curious. I mean, I think this game this past weekend probably did a massive number. And now everyone's like, oh, yeah, see, Ole Miss is one of the most talented teams in the country. It's like, yeah, we've been telling you that. Just because they dropped the ball on a couple fourth downs against Kentucky and LSU doesn't mean they weren't super talented. They're crazy talented. But now I think everybody's alert to that with how they defended Georgia throughout the course of that game. So I don't know about you. I think Ole Miss will probably move up into the top 12, but I don't know how much higher they can really go. It also depends a little bit on how much they drop LSU, because LSU beat Ole Miss, and that isn't going to help Ole Miss's standings by any stretch. So they got a lot of factors in play here with Ole Miss this weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about that, and I think too, for that many people to see on that stage that defense might be that good and is that far improved, I think probably would go even further to say that Ole Miss potentially gained the most. Could you throw into the mix, say, an Indiana, but not so much because of what they have done, but just that the big name brands in front of them continue to fall, and just how beneficial that might be for them to, I think we may be past the point of them talking about them getting in. It looks like they're in right now.
I don't know. I have some thoughts on that too.
Okay, but who do you think they're going to lose to? If they lose to Ohio State and then beat Purdue.
If they lose to Ohio State, bad. That's the thing. Is right now their best wins against a 5-4 Nebraska. Everyone else they've played is 500 or worse. Nebraska, if Nebraska keeps going, Nebraska's lost 3 in a row. Like when Indiana beat them, it really wasn't a bad loss or a bad win at all. It was actually a pretty good win. Well, Nebraska's now lost 3 in a row, and they're in legitimate jeopardy of going bowling. So is Washington. So is Michigan. So those 3 teams are the 3 best wins. All are 500 or one game above 500. And I think if Indiana gets blasted this weekend, I mean, guys, we are talking about a team that is 100th on strength of schedule. 100th. That is like a Sun Belt resume. Seriously. And it's crazy to me that we would even consider, I know that their record's good. I get that. But haven't we made that mistake before? Like, haven't we made that mistake with Liberty last year when they got in the college football playoff because they were undefeated and got absolutely blasted? Like, the committee did the right thing last year by putting Bama in over Florida State. Florida State would gotten killed. But are we really going to do this now with Indiana? The one team they play this year with a pulse and they get beat convincingly and we're still going to put them in? I can't get on board with that. I'd rather have a 10-2 Ole Miss than a 11-1 Indiana all day long and twice on Saturday.
My point, though, is it's too far gone. Where do you think Indiana's going to be ranked tonight? Not where would you have them. Where do you think the committee will place them?
I think they'll be 6th or 7th.
Yeah. So they lose one. They beat Purdue. They lose to Ohio State, who the committee's going to have in the top 3. And then you beat Purdue. They're not going to be out. I don't think it's going to happen.
I think the committee, if they lose badly to Ohio State, that's why I said yesterday on the pod, like if they lose badly, they're out, I think. Because then you can literally point to they have no good wins. And the one team they played that was good killed them. So I think that you're going to be, if you're a 2-loss team, and this is not just SEC, this is really any team that has 2 losses and that has played a brutally difficult schedule. Shoot, put Louisville in the conversation. I don't care. Louisville lost 3 games. I'm not saying they should be ahead of Indiana. I'm just saying they lost 3 games, all by 7 points or less, all by teams that could be in the top 10 of the College Football Playoff Committee rankings. And you're telling me that Indiana played one team in the top 10 and they get their doors blown off by 28? Who would you rather have? I mean, I think Indiana's good too. I'm just saying I don't know if they're not one of those teams. Their schedule, their strength of schedule is no different than a G5 team. And if we hold G5 teams to an unbelievable, a really high standard of what they have to be, if you have to be 11-1 or 12-0 as a G5 team to get in the playoff, why would we not hold a team that has the same strength of schedule as a G5 team to the same standard? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I see where you're going. I just think that it's too far gone, that the committee's not going to correct that. It's not going to happen if that's where they go. And I don't think they're going to look at it the way that you do of other 2-loss teams playing a little bit more difficult schedules. There's parts of this mindset, this groupthink in college football and rankings and views of teams and good and bad and accomplishments that it's going to take such a long time to actually change. And people's brains have just been trained to say, if you have more than 2 losses, you're not a good team. If you have 2 losses, you might not be a good team. It's going to take a long time to get past that. It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
But I think that's also the reality of it. I think that there are a lot of people out there that just they can't tell themselves that a 2 or 3 loss team is better than an undefeated or a 1-loss team.
Well, they're going to need to wake up and figure out that not all schedules are created equal, especially nowadays in the college football playoff where there's 12 teams and there's bloated conferences where you don't play everybody. Indiana is 100th right now on strength of schedule. 100th. Would you like to know the 10 teams in front of them?
Go for it.
Old Dominion, App State, Arkansas State, Utah, UAB, Georgia State, Tulane, FIU, UNLV, San Diego State. Those are the 10 teams in front of them. Would you like to know the 10 teams behind them?
Yes.
Hawaii, Washington State, Troy, Fresno State, North Texas, South Alabama, Southern Miss, Jacksonville State, Buffalo, and Air Force. Those are the 20 teams around them. 20 teams around Indiana. 19 of 20 are G5 teams. And we're talking strength of schedule ranking. Strength of schedule ranking. So if Indiana is comparable to that of Liberty, why are we putting them in the playoff?
But we don't think the quality of their team, though, is comparable to Liberty.
I think they're good, but I know that their team's comprised of a bunch of G5 players that execute at a crazy high level. And if I'm not saying, look, they win this weekend, they're competitive this weekend, they're in. If they lose this game by 14 points this weekend, they're in. If they lose by 30, they're not in. They shouldn't be in my opinion. That's my personal opinion.
Okay. All right.
I think they got to lose this one close if they want to guarantee a spot. I think it's justified. I mean, their resume is embarrassing. Their strength of schedule. I mean, seriously, it's not their fault for the Big Ten to have a schedule like this. It's just insane. It's crazy how it's worked out for them.
Well, FIU has been pretty good before. That's not on them. Western Illinois, yeah, okay. Charlotte, But for UCLA, Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, Michigan State to not be good teams, Michigan to not be good this year, that's not, so a lot of that's not on them. So
It's not on them, but it's the realities of the situation. They have, if we are like poo-pooing Washington State getting in the college football playoff at 11-1. And everyone's like, no, come on. Ha ha ha. Come on. Washington State. That's funny. Ha. They're 102 in strength of schedule. Indiana's 100. And people are saying that Indiana should be higher. They should be ranked higher. And Washington State shouldn't even be in the top 25. That's what people are saying. There's a lot of bleeding heart Indiana supporters, which I am all for. But we also need to look at the data. And I think Indiana's a tremendous story. And it'd be great if I would love it if they won the game this weekend. I think it'd be phenomenal. But if they don't and they get blasted, we need to really strongly consider them making it as an at-large team.
All right. We will talk more about this on the other side. We'll get your feedback too. 800-239-9569. Do you have concerns about the college football playoff? Where some teams are ranked, where we're headed, how it looks like teams are going to be decided how they get in? 800-239-9569. You can text in 205-834-9450, tweet in at Mac and Cube. You guys know the weather is about to cool off, we hope. And when it does, the critters are going to be trying to get into your home. They want a place to stay warm. The squirrels are going to be in your attic. The possum are going to be in your garage. And there's one way that you can take care of that, and it's with our friends at Wayne's. They still take care of your lawn. They still take care of the mosquitoes and the termites, but they can also remove wildlife from your home and help prevent wildlife from getting in your home, GMAC.
That's because Wayne's, they'll have that wildlife services. It's been great. It's been kind of a new addition. I didn't even know they had it up until probably like 6 months ago. And it's been great. They've come out and taken care of birds. Have tried to nest in our house, in our attic. It can make you sick. You don't want to get bird flu and things like that. So go and make sure that Wayne's comes over and cleans out everything that needs to be cleaned out, plus all the Envirolawn, the EnviroPest, all safe, smart, pet-friendly, child-friendly. Then they're going to make your living experience more comfortable. So call them today, 866-WAYNES-1. That's 866-WAYNES-1. Visit callwaynes.com and let Wayne's continue to create your happy place.
All right, we'll talk more about the college football playoff and teams that get in, but I want to ask you this as well. We asked who maybe gained the most, who lost the most this past weekend. What part of what team impressed you the most over the weekend? We'll discuss that next right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Glad you're with us. 7:38 a.m. right here on Jocks 94.5. Talking college football playoff and teams that may be getting into the playoff. Teams that maybe impressed you, but a certain way that you weren't sure that they would. If we looked at teams across college football over the weekend, what specific part of a certain team impressed you the most? You can be a part of the conversation, 800-239-9569, tweet in at Mac and Cube. If you just went to certain portions of teams and what they did over the weekend. Before we get to that, G-Mac, tell our listeners about the Pants Store and how impressive they are.
Pants Store is your game day headquarters. They got all the best brands, all the things that you would like to get. When you go to the Pants Store, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really amazing to see all the different things. Genteel, Horn Legend, Antigua, so many different brands that are great, that are highly coveted, and another that have the best styles and looks for you is great. And also, they can get you taken care of with shoes. I mean, the shoes are great, head to toe. Ladies, they got dresses. They got the clear purses for you as well. So go and check out your game day headquarters at the Pants Store. Anywhere around town, you'll see them. Zip on down to the Pants Store for all your game day needs.
All right, G-Mac. So college football teams, there's a couple that had really impressive wins, but if you just went more specific over the weekend and looked at certain parts of certain teams, what certain aspect of a team this past weekend impressed you the most? It could be player, position group, side of the football, coaching staff, coordinator. What was most impressive for you?
I would say it'd have to be how well Ole Miss held up along both lines of scrimmage. That'd be one. Trying to think of what other. I think Alabama's commitment to the run game. Those would kind of be the two top aspects of what I was most impressed with.
Yeah, it would be that Ole Miss D line for me. Maybe front seven you could include, but specifically the defensive line. And I do think that we talked last night on Read and React about getting home with a four-man rush. We talked about Princely Uman and setting up different pass rush moves for later in the game. And I will say this, even myself doing extra scouting on that game, I kind of came to the realization of, man, they really were just allowed to tee off for like the last three possessions of this game. Now, they still got there. They still did it. They were still successful and still won a lot of one-on-ones and still got a lot of pressure with just four. But I think still that group specifically, being able to do what they did, being able to clog the middle of that offensive line and not let the run get going there and then be able to pressure Carson Beck the way that they did, I think that would have to be the most aspect of a team that I saw this weekend. I like your answer about Alabama's commitment to the run game, though. And then, two, I'll say the creativity with it, because I think a lot of times when we say creativity with the run game, we think jet sweeps and orbit motions and, wonky formations and, wildcat formation. All they did is throw in trips with the nub tight end and run the same play with three different twists on it, three different little options off of it, and it just continued to go. But they were stubborn with it, and it worked. And I'll say this, too. To follow down that path, I was impressed with Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin. And I know they didn't successfully run the football so much in this game, but they stuck with the run in this game. They attempted to run the ball for 4 quarters, and that allowed them to utilize play action protection mostly. And I think that bought them an extra second or two because, yeah, the ball came out kind of quick, but it's not like it was catch and throw. I mean, they still need a little bit of time for some of those routes to develop. I mean, the scissors or switch concept was going for them, so it takes a second or two for that to actually develop and a guy to come out in space and get open. I thought Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr. stayed committed to it as well, even though it wasn't a lot of handoff gain, 8 or 9 yards.
Yeah, and I think Charlie Weiss, the one thing that I think is funny is the play action stuff that they do. It's such a token fake, but I don't know why it has such an effect on the second level defenders.
I would ignore it.
Maybe because it's so RPO. They're so RPO heavy. I just don't really understand why there's so many different layers to that whole situation. Because I look at the linebackers, and I'm like, the ball doesn't even go into his belly at all. Like, why are you taking 3 steps forward?
I like how you
But
said
they seemingly
token
always
fake.
do.
I haven't heard it described that way, but that's very accurate.
That feels
I like
right.
that. Yeah.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, that's what we always call it. It's just token fake. Like, I mean, it's just, there's nothing to it. Like, it's just a little quick extension into the stomach, but it's not like there's a mesh. You know, it's not like this is a heavy, hard play action. It's a token fake. Meaning the back doesn't even really look at the ball or anything. Doesn't even look at the hole. Like, he's looking at protection the whole way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It does have an effect, though. It's just amazing that it does.
I'll give you one other one quickly, and I know you hate them, but I'm gonna throw them out there real quick. The Army defense, I would have wagered a lot of money on North Texas to cover in that game because I thought they'd score, and they got a field goal in the first quarter, and they didn't score again. And Chandler Morris had been on fire this year, and he threw for 214. So I know the possessions were limited, but still, I'll give that Army defense credit against a really good offense and what they did over the weekend. I know that's you don't want to talk about them anymore, but I will give them credit for that.
That's great. I'm glad you like them. We'll see how they fare when they play against a team with a pulse next week in Notre Dame.
Man, this is this Greg's biggest Goldberg moment right now? Like Goldberg team, Goldberg item, Goldberg token?
No, I'm unimpressed by teams that beat G5 teams. I'm just not impressed by that at all. Because I saw Navy walk the dog on teams all year long until they played Notre Dame and literally wet right down their leg. I mean, it was like, they had 3 fumbles in the first 5 drives, and they hadn't had a fumble all year. I mean, I don't know, man. It's not anything personal. It's just the gap and the caliber of player that a G5 team can attract compared to the gap and caliber of a player of a Notre Dame or a playoff contender. It's apples and oranges.
All I'm saying, they had 6 500-yard games and 2 600-yard games, and Army held them to 2.
Tell me how Chandler Morris did in his last 4 years at the Power 5 level, and how many times he got benched. And here we are. We're anointing him because he's been chopping it up all season long. Like, Chandler Morris was where last year? TCU?
I believe so.
Where was he before that? Remind me. Arkansas?
I think he was at Arkansas for a minute, yeah. But what P5 teams has Boise defeated?
They haven't, but at least, they beat Washington State convincingly.
Are we still counting?
Washington State's
still counting
more. No, I'm just saying that they beat them convincingly. And Washington State does have some P5 caliber talent. I'm not saying they have a lot. Like, if Washington State played Memphis, I'd probably pick Memphis, but it depends on the day. But I saw Boise go and play and give Oregon all they want and some. And I got a lot of respect for Oregon. So I don't know. That's why I'm in wait and see mode, but more often than not, I'm going to lean pessimistic when I haven't seen you play anybody. That's my problem with Army is they have not played anybody. So the best team they've played so far is East Carolina. And East Carolina fired their coach. That's how bad they are.
All right. We'll continue talking playoff.
You love Army. You're such an Army guy.
I think that they deserve some credit for what they've done. Crimson Convict would like to chime in on the conversation. Welcome in, Crimson.
Hey, what's up, my friends? Greg, I do have a question for you. So would the two of you agree that strength of schedule would at least be a top 3 metric in qualifying these teams for the playoff?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's universal. I don't think anyone would push back on that.
Yeah, I agree.
The only 2 things to be ahead of it are wins and losses.
Yeah, record. I think record. And then they have put a metric on, quote, game control, which is eye test. Like, that'd be in the mix as well. Then you have strength of record.
Hold
That's
on
the
a
other
second.
metric.
Wait a second. There's not. You can't. What are you, PFF now? You can't put a metric on eye test because it's your eyes. There's no number for that.
Am I on the committee? No. I'm just saying the committee members put a metric on that. I don't need game control to tell me who's good. or who dominated games. I can just watch them.
Go ahead, Crimson. Sorry.
No worries. I enjoy it. So the committee, being the dictatorship that they are, they have already told us, have they not hired like a third party as far as the strength of schedule? And they're not going to be transparent about that, correct?
That's probably more of a Greg question.
Sports Source Analytics is their. It's not really a third party. It's kind of universally used.
Yeah, that's who does CFBstats.com. They're very well respected.
Everybody. Yeah, they do a good job.
Okay, yeah, but my point is this, is that I think they've made it real clear that that's the back door they're going to leave to walk out of in case they catch flack on this, because my whole argument with Miami this whole time has been they're not going to play a single team in the top 25, even though they're in the ACC, unless they get to the championship. So if that's a metric that the committee is going to be non-transparent about, then how are we going to know how they stack up the strength of schedules for each team versus the ones that get in?
Well, Miami beat
They already
Louisville,
have. They beat Louisville, who's ranked
in the top 25. And, I mean, that I don't understand the non-transparent angle as much. Like that. They're not gonna necessarily tell you, oh well, this team's here because of this, but we can usually draw some conclusions. That's kind of the challenge that I have.
Okay. Well, I'm just, my whole thing is I don't trust the committee as far as I can kick them. Whenever they're coming up with who they're going to put in, who they're not going to put in. And I just feel like a lot of these teams, to your point, Greg, like Indiana. I mean, I'm sorry. I know they can't control their schedule just like Miami can't. But at the end of the day, when you got Georgia out there, or basically any team in the SEC who's playing top 25s week in and week out, I want to hear the committee's explanation on why they will put one team in over another when strength of schedule should be a top 3 metric.
Well, I think there is the strength of schedule is a top 3 metric, but there's more to the story. Wins and losses, your record. Efficiency numbers are important. And look, I have faith that there's people on the committee that have played and coached at the highest level. Tyrone Willingham was the head coach at Stanford, Notre Dame, and Washington. He's on the committee. Rod West played football at Notre Dame. That gives me great faith. Will Shields,
let's go.
He played at Nebraska. Like, it's not like there's people that are on the committee that don't know ball. Like, there's people on the committee that know ball.
This may be the most football acumen the committee has ever had, honestly.
Yes. Like, is there enough on there to like make you feel better about it? I don't know. Like, I think we should have like the smartest possible. John Urschel, I don't know who he is, but he played ball allegedly at Penn State. I think he did. It says he's an All-American. I don't know who he is. I'm sure he did play though. I don't think he was a kicker. I'm hoping he wasn't. If he was, then we can remove him. But I think the committee knows ball. Like Gary Barta, I believe, played ball too. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I really wouldn't.
Appreciate it, Convict. Always good stuff. Good call. We got to get to a break. Come back with our top 3 next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. 7:55 a.m. Tuesday, November 12th, right here on Jocks 94.5. Andy Burcham coming up next. Quickly, Damian, what's on your top three today?
Just top three NFL takeaways from the weekend. The first takeaway, I will say this. It's insane to think about statistically. The NFC North quarterbacks did not have a great day. They ended up winning ball games, but combined 8 interceptions between Jared Goff and Sam Darnold in their 2 wins as the Vikings knocked off these Jacksonville Jaguars 12-7. And in the late game on Sunday night, the Lions knocked off the Texans 26-23. And how about the Arizona Cardinals? They have the lead in the NFC West for the first time since
2005.
2021.
Wow, 3 years ago.
They ended up finishing the division.
3 years it's been.
They ended up losing to
Lifetime.
They haven't won the division since 2015.
You were in elementary school last time they were leading the division.
It's been a minute. And then statistically, the third takeaway, Will Levis had his best game in 2024, but the Titans still lost 27-17 to
That's
the
growth.
Los Angeles.
I call that growth.
Los Angeles Chargers. First game back after
Growth.
injury. 18 for 23, 175, 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 7 times.
That's not his fault. Well, it might be some his fault, but
It's
so they're going to ride with him.
Yeah, we have no
18 of
choice.
23, 175, 2 touchdowns, and no picks. Hey, he carried it 5 times for 41 yards.
did.
He
Indeed.
cursed him. He bought his jersey. Look what happened.
How about that last year?
Still.
I mean, you got to give him a little more run, I think, and especially try to clean up the protection, but we'll see.
Easier said than done.
All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. We're going to get to Andy Burcham here in just a moment. It's Tuesday, November 12th, 8 a.m., hour number 2 underway. Before we get to Andy Burcham, because I want to talk to him about this specifically, Hugh Freeze discussing Peyton Thorne in his press conference yesterday.
An indication that I don't think he has played pretty solid here as of late. So, but you start kind of thinking big picture, and that's not always the easiest thing to do because you love your players and you want what's best for all of them. That gives us the best chance to win the remaining 3 games, and obviously we'll start seeing how the health is first and foremost.
All right, so that was Hugh Freeze discussing Peyton Thorne in his presser. Andy Burcham, voice of the Auburn Tigers, joins us every Tuesday thanks to our friends at Craneworks.
Lift it, load it, grade it, grind it, move it, haul it, rig it, dig it, Craneworks, Rentalworks, yeah! The big dog's got it.
The voice of the Auburn Tigers, Andy Burcham, on Mac and Cube in the morning is brought to you by Craneworks. Lifted, buy and rented, the big dog's got it. Now, Andy Burcham.
Andy, always great to have you in on a Tuesday. You heard Coach Freeze there discussing Peyton Thorne not practicing last week. What are the expectations for you, for him, this upcoming weekend?
Well, and we asked him the specific question again last night on Tiger Talk, and the answer was the same, that the first and foremost thing is the health of Peyton Thorne, who, as you just heard, did not practice for Auburn last week. Now, whether he can go this week, whether he can go today, and this would be the first day of full contact practice for the Tigers, that remains to be seen. But last week it was Hank Brown and Holden Gerner and Walker White that got all the reps in practice for the off week. And it's going to be very interesting to see now what happens with regard to Peyton Thorne and his health at this point. It is his throwing shoulder. It happened in the second half of the loss to Vanderbilt, and we'll just have to wait and see, what practice holds for Peyton and the rest of the quarterback room at this point. I think first and foremost it's the health and that shoulder for Peyton Thorne that determines whether he plays this weekend or whether it's Hank Brown or Holden or even Walker at this point.
So you said Walker White got all the first team reps last week?
No. Those 3, Hank Brown, Holden Gerner, and Walker White, all got all of the reps last week. Just meaning Peyton Thorne did not practice last week. So no. That trio got the reps last week in practice.
Okay. What exactly is any of the 3 capable of playing the next 3 games and still redshirting? What's the playing time situation for all those?
Walker White and Holden Gerner haven't played yet, so they could actually play in all 3 of these last games and not lose their redshirt abilities. Since Hank Brown has played in a couple games, if he would play the last 3 games, he would have played in 5 games then for Auburn, and that would take him out of. I believe I'm right in that he's only played in 2 games. He's not played a snap since halftime of the Arkansas game, but Gerner and White would both be able to retain their redshirt status at this point.
All right, so when you look at if Peyton Thorne's not available, what do you think that changes? How much do you think the offense alters? The offense looks different, especially with some extra time to maybe put different things in.
I think it changes things just because Thorne is more of a two-way threat than a Hank Brown is at this point. I think it would change if you're using Holden Gerner or Walker White just because they don't have the experience. I think you would rely even more on your running backs in your running game at this point. But, we didn't go into that with Coach Freeze last night. He was not asked about if if Peyton can't go on Saturday, how does that alter the offense? He did say this, and this is in a different direction. It doesn't look like Alex McPherson will kick for Auburn this week. And with the struggles a bit of Towns Magoo, I think Auburn probably looks at I think it changes the way Auburn looks at third and fourth down rather than trying to set up a field goal at this point. Maybe you're more in a 4-down territory at this point if you're getting close to what would typically be field goal range. So that was talked about by the head coach, and we asked him about that, or he was asked about that last night on Tiger Talk as well, that likely changes a little bit how Auburn looks at third and fourth down when they're getting closer to the opponent's goal line at this point.
What about the defense? Obviously, that group's been playing solid all year. Feel great about them. Home stretch here. How much better do they need to get for them to somehow find a way to bowl eligibility?
Well, I think everyone's got to continue to strive and get better. But boy, it's hard to fault the defense the way it's played of late, and especially against the run. I mean, right now Auburn's holding opponents just 109 yards rushing, and all the opponents that they faced of late have been in the Southeastern Conference. They've done a really good job of containing the run game of the opponent. Now they'll get a test this week with Ahmad Hardy, who has 915 yards and 9 touchdowns. He may be one of the best tailbacks that Auburn has faced this season with ULM. And then, of course, you get Texas A&M, which is very, very strong in the run game. And we know what Alabama can do in the run game, especially with Milroe at the quarterback spot. So I think Auburn will be tested in that run game defense in these last 3 games. It's hard to ask this defense to play a whole lot better than it has. But, you look at the guys up front, McLeod and Falk, and they're having terrific years for Auburn. I feel that the interior 2 guys, Blockton has played well of late for Auburn as a true freshman. We continue to see Isaiah Rakes become an impact player, and Jason Jones, Jamison Travis as well in the middle. And, when we've talked about the youth of Auburn's secondary since about 2 or 3 games into the season, and when you look at what Kean Lee as a sophomore on one corner and Jay Crawford as a freshman on the other corner have done, and they've turned in fabulous seasons for the Tigers. And Caleb Harris at safety, and Sylvester Smith on the other side as a redshirt freshman. That entire right now that secondary, other than Keontae Scott and Jaquez Robinson at the star. I mean, Crawford's a freshman, Sylvester Smith's a redshirt freshman, Caleb Harris is a freshman, and Kean Lee is a sophomore. Jaron Thompson at field safety, who transferred in from Texas, is the one big veteran back there, but he's in his first year at Auburn. And then you got guys in the middle with Keys and the Eugene Asante, and they really like what they're seeing out of DeMarcus Riddick of late. I think he's one of the reasons that Diego Pavia struggled a bit in running the ball against Auburn. I think DeMarcus Riddick, I don't know if you could say he was a spy in that game, but I think he certainly knew where the quarterback was when he was on the field. I love the way this defense is playing. And I think this defense continues to get better, and it needs to, until and if this offense can find some consistency.
Andy Burcham joins us every Tuesday. Thanks to Craneworks. He's on the Buyers Right Hotline, voice of the Auburn Tigers, talking football with us. But I want to switch gears, Andy, and go basketball. Obviously, we had a ton of college football to get to yesterday, so we didn't spend a lot of time on Auburn's huge win at Houston, 74-69 over the weekend. Janai Broome, fantastic, 20 points in the game. 10 of 15 from the floor, grabbed 9 rebounds. It seemed to be a game in which Auburn crashed the boards well, didn't need a ton from behind the 3-point line, and were able to get a huge win. Take us through kind of what you saw in that matchup.
Well, you knew this was going to be kind of a heavyweight fight between these two teams. I mean, Auburn went into the game number 2 in the country in the Ken Palm poll, and Houston was number 1 coming out of the game, that has flip-flopped. And Auburn knew that it would be a very physical game because that's what Auburn plays, a physical brand of basketball, and so does Houston. And Houston takes a 5-point lead into the locker room at halftime. They get a 3 at the buzzer, and they've got all kinds of momentum. And they jump out to a 9-point lead and had a couple of options or a couple of possessions to get the game to a double-figure lead. And for me, this is just me, I think that's a big deal. If you can get I think that's a mental thing. If you get a double-figure lead on someone, and they never could do that. And then Auburn came back, and Tahad Pettiford, a true freshman, McDonald's All-American last year, along with Janai and Shaney Johnson, kind of took the game over. And Pettiford from the outside, and as you mentioned, Janai Broome on the inside, who was just unstoppable. And then Auburn made free throws down the stretch of that game and played, in Houston's backyard at the Toyota Center. There was about 7,500 on hand, but 2,500 of that was Auburn fans. It worked out really well that it was an open weekend for football because a lot of the Auburn faithful made the trip to Houston, and you could hear them in that game. And I thought that was an enormous win for this team in as tough a non-conference schedule as I've ever seen at Auburn. And to think that Auburn will not lose a game in this non-conference season, they will. It's going to happen. But to get a win down there in Houston against Houston, that was as big a non-conference win outside of the NCAA tournament, I think, that I've been a part of, especially considering it was on the road.
Pretty impressive stuff. All right, Andy.
Yes.
What do you expect next? What do you want to see next from this Auburn basketball team? Is there something that you feel like a place they haven't been tested, a place, something else you want to learn about them? Because you mentioned the physicality, the brute force. I mean, that's pretty much Houston every year.
Yes.
What else is kind of out in front of you in the next few games that you say, okay, this is where they'll be tested. This is what I want to learn about that group.
How do they play tomorrow night against Kent State? Do they let down a little bit? Because Saturday was such an emotional win. I mean, we didn't get back in town until about 3 o'clock in the morning because the game started a half hour later because of the Rice-Florida State game that was played before. So they've not had a whole lot of time to get ready for Kent State. Kent State's picked to win the MAC this year. It certainly doesn't have the name that Houston does. And then you get North Alabama on Monday in an 8 o'clock game at Neville Arena. And then Auburn leaves on Thursday for the Maui Classic. So how does Auburn play in these next two games where Auburn will be a rather heavy favorite against Kent State and North Alabama? How does it execute in these next couple ball games? I mean, who steps up? In game one, it was Miles Kelly, one of the newcomers. In game two, among the newcomers, it was Tahad Pettiford. Who else steps up for this Auburn team? So that, to me, that's the big test. Now, when we talk next Tuesday morning, it will be, all right, now you're gearing up for the possibility, and everything would have to fall right for this, but the possibility of a top 5 Iowa State team and a North Carolina team and the 2-time defending champs in UConn. That could be Auburn's 3 games, realistically, in the Maui Classic. But you got to get there. And these next 2 ball games will come against teams that are not nearly as highly thought of as a Houston or Iowa State or North Carolina or UConn or Purdue or Ohio State. But you need to go out and play well in these next 2 ball games. And Auburn will be tested tomorrow night against Kent State. How does it respond at home in front of the Jungle? We'll find out.
I think the better question here is Auburn plays Louisiana Monroe at home on Saturday. You just said the basketball team leaves for Maui on Thursday. Where will Andy Burcham be on Saturday?
In the press box calling Auburn football. I fly out early Sunday morning from Maui.
Will you miss a game or?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Never mind. All right.
Rod did this in his last year. He did the same thing. Auburn was playing at home on a Saturday, and he flew to Maui on Sunday and did 3 games and flew back and did the Iron Bowl.
Well, the question was going to be that if you were to miss a basketball game, then someone had to fill in, and then whoever that was, you obviously had the opportunity to flip-flop that and go call the basketball game in Maui and let them call the Monroe game at home. But you don't have to worry about that. So you'll be good.
Don't have to worry about that.
There you go. Andy, always great stuff. We appreciate your time each and every weekend. As we always know, you're brought to us by Craneworks.
And Wasteworks, a Craneworks company, provides roll-off dumpster rentals in the Birmingham area with a wide range of sizes and fast service. They are your source for local dumpster rentals. Visit wasteworksusa.com for a quote. All right, you know this. I will be at Jordan-Hare Stadium Saturday morning for Auburn ULM. Cole, you're in Columbia, South Carolina. Is that right?
One Columbia to the other.
There you go. Did you make it to? Did you go to Shakespeare's Pizza last week?
Didn't make it. I was afraid that they wouldn't serve me after they wrote articles about my overrated statements.
That?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, listen, when you move the meter,
Back
you
where
move
you
the
gonna
meter.
be? Yes,
I'll be
you
in
do.
Pittsburgh. I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning in.
Well, bundle up.
Yeah. Bundle up. What a game. What a time to be alive.
I hope both of you guys are safe in your travels and have great calls. All
Thanks,
right?
Andy. We appreciate the time, as
All right,
always.
guys. Take care.
All right, Andy Burcham joining us on the Buyers Right Hotline. He's with us each and every week. Thanks to our friends at Craneworks. That was one that we had not discussed. A nice win for Auburn basketball over Houston over the weekend. We also didn't spend a lot of time on the plane situation, in which it feels like the team is sort of buying into or leaning into. So, hey, whatever works. Alabama gets a nice win yesterday against Will Wade's McNeese team, 72-64. Grant Nelson, 22 points, 8 rebounds. So Bama stays undefeated, number 2 in the nation. Also last night around the Southeastern Conference, you had a couple big nights individually, but Missouri gets an 84-77 win against Eastern Washington. And inside of that win, you had Caleb Grill going for 33 points. Oklahoma took out Northwestern State. Florida knocked off Grambling. A&M knocked off Lamar. And SEC action. So coming up tonight, Towson's at South Carolina, North Florida at Georgia, Southeast Louisiana, Mississippi State. South Alabama's over at Ole Miss. Chicago State at Texas. The Chicago State
Vandals?
Wolverines?
What?
Bulls.
Cougars.
Oh,
Good guess,
that's
Greg.
not fun.
And you guys, we got
Cubs.
Duke, Kentucky tonight
Hey.
Okay.
from State Farm Arena,
All right.
Where is State Farm Arena?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Ah.
I mean, that's where we
Did
want to see that
Hawks
game,
fans
right?
know that?
That's where we
What's
want.
that?
That's where we want to see Duke, Kentucky, right?
That always feels
NBA
You
arena?
know, it was one thing when they played it at Madison Square Garden. That was pretty cool. But
I think I'd
when
rather
I
see this
think-
one on an aircraft carrier, to be honest with you.
that would make some sense. Hey, will you be watching Maction tonight, or will you be watching Duke, Kentucky?
I will be watching Maction
Yeah.
tonight.
Same.
We've got
Even though I'll be between the two basketball games. I'll be watching some action. Should be fun.
6 p.m. CBS Sports Network, 3-6 Ball State's at 5-4 Buffalo.
I might watch basketball.
6
I didn't
p.m.
realize
tonight
it
on
was that game.
ESPN2, 5-4 Western Michigan at 5-4 Bowling Green. Somebody's getting bowl eligible. 6 p.m. ESPNU tonight, 3-6 Central Michigan at 6-5 Toledo. So there you go. That's your Maction tonight. Got that going for us. All right, when we come back,
Maction.
a little more college football from the weekend. There are a couple games we haven't gotten to yet. We want to do that next, right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. All right, some college football news from over the last 24 hours. Missouri center Connor Tollison's going to be out for the rest of the year. 34 career starts, knee injury. He's going to be done. That's a big loss for Missouri, especially considering who you got this weekend. Not the group you want to lose your center with 34 starts against. South Carolina. Alabama, Keanu Coate, GMAC, suspended, not going to be with the team this weekend. Do we have a timeline that we expect him back?
No. I've not heard anything that would lead me to believe that it is going to be a long-term suspension. But I to be honest with you, I just know he's not available this week. That's all I know.
Nebraska is going to allow Dana Holgerson to call plays. Brought him in as an analyst last week. This week, calling plays. I felt fast.
That's a quick promotion.
Felt really fast.
Okay.
But honestly, Greg, take us through what that would be like for, and listen, this happens all the time with guys getting fired and whatnot, but I mean, what is it like to have a different guy? What would it be like to have a different guy all of a sudden calling plays in the middle of a season?
It would be weird, but I wouldn't think that it's that big of a deal. Like, I mean, I don't know. To me, it's I get the play, we go, we run it. It's transactional. But it's probably due, right? I mean, Marcus Satterfield, they've really regressed. They've scored 44 points in the last 3 games. Like, they probably need, and he, honestly, a lot of people were a little bit trying to wonder why he got the job to begin with. It's not knocking him, but it was a bit of an odd hire to begin with. So all that being said, I just wonder if, this is the end of the line for a while. Like, they need an experienced guy that can set things up because they're kind of in desperation mode because it doesn't look good for them bowl prospects if they don't start peeling off some wins.
Satterfield, a very wordy, lengthy, like kind of old school West Coast offensive coordinator scheme. So it can be a little bit confusing for some younger quarterbacks. I know that from his time at South Carolina. So their last 4 games, 261 yards of offense, 304 yards of offense, 273 yards of offense, 322 yards of offense. 1 and 3 in those games as well. So I guess not super surprised that a change is going to be made. What you just heard Coach Freeze and Andy Burcham say about the Auburn quarterback situation, how does that change? Maybe not this weekend, Greg, but just moving forward. What does it make you think about how Auburn might be able to finish this season?
Well, I mean, I think you kind of asked for it a couple weeks ago, like, hey, do you go young at some point? I don't think that's the best way to do it if everyone's healthy and available, but if Peyton Thorne is not healthy and available and you got to go young, like, it does give you a good look ahead to what next year could be. Does give you a look ahead for how things could factor in the competition. I would also argue that it's not the best thing ever because whoever doesn't start out of those 3 in the event in which it goes in that direction, you're probably going to lose a guy in the portal in December that maybe you like, maybe you don't care about. I don't know, but that's something worth noting as well. So if Peyton Thorne can't go, there could be trickle-down fallout for not just this year, but for next year's roster as well.
Yeah, interesting though that was released. I mean, I guess that gives him, if he does want to go a different direction, that can kind of be one of the reasons why, if they want to go that way moving forward. So it's going to be, I don't know how much we'll learn this weekend. I do think you have to go out there and try to play good football, but still might be able to do it with a different quarterback, specifically one that's gotten reps. We talked a lot about the college football playoff earlier. Golden Domer's been on hold, wants to discuss that. Domer, welcome into the show.
Top of the morning, gentlemen. How are y'all?
Good morning.
How are y'all doing? Y'all doing all right?
Yeah, I'm great.
All right. So, look, one thing I want to talk about, and y'all kind of hit on it earlier, and I think it's a very fundamental part of the playoff whole system, and I think it's the strength of schedule. And so, Greg talked about it, and we broke it down. But one thing that I have a problem with, and I think that we can all kind of agree on this, there's some things that, you have to talk about anytime you have a metric, you have to talk about the formula. And I don't think anybody actually understands the formula and how they're coming up with this metric. And it's not about, this is better, that's better, but it's not really math. And the problem that I have is that when we say, oh, they have a strength of schedule of 30 and this team has a strength of schedule of 40, we act like that's a fact or that's actually a data point. When in all reality, it's a perception and an opinion, and you cannot put
it's
a
not an
opinion.
It is not an opinion. It is fact.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay, Greg,
see, like, hang up. I can't deal with it today. I'm not in the mood. They take offensive and defensive efficiency metrics, rank them against the teams that they've played, what those teams have done from an offensive and defensive efficiency metric ranking. And they average it all out, and it does create a mathematical formula to where it is acceptable. It's not an opinion. It's not like Sports Source Analytics is sitting there and saying, you know what, I look at Oregon's strength of schedule, and it's different than Texas's strength of schedule. It's different than Clemson's strength of schedule. Like, no, it factors in efficiency numbers based on yards per play, a whole host of different data points to come up with about as good a conclusion as we can come up with. And Domer, for the record, you don't like it because it does benefit teams that have good players and are good teams. I get that. But Notre Dame's sitting there right now with a pretty good strength of schedule. They actually, and the teams that have played Notre Dame's number 6 right now as far as total efficiency. Notre Dame's defense is number 3 in total defensive efficiency. Like, I don't necessarily live by these numbers, but those that can't watch ball and absorb what they're watching, they use these numbers to allow them to make a more justified conclusion. And I'm fine with it. I acknowledge that this is the way it is. But they're not an opinion. So for you to say they're an opinion is completely inaccurate, and I'm just not going to listen to it.
All right. Can I give you some pushback, Greg?
No, because it's not an opinion.
Okay, I have a right to an opinion too. I respect your opinion.
You have an opinion, but you cannot suggest that strength of schedule is an opinion.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you know that a couple of years ago, I actually spoke directly to one of the people that calculates the strength of schedule metric, and I asked him directly something that not many people do. I asked him directly. Y'all had him on y'all's airway, right? And I asked him directly if
what was his name?
Plays a 10. If can I please finish? If a team plays and beats a 10-win FCS team and another team plays a 10-win MAC team, how are those calculated into the data point? And he said equally because they have 10 wins. That is what you call a flaw. And what I would like us to do a practice. That's something we could do, you could do on the show. I think it'd be a great segment. Instead of us using what I say is a flawed metric, not saying it's 100% awful, but it's flawed and it's sold as fact and it's not. What I would like to do is once the committee puts together their final selection, I think what we should do is as human beings, I respect you and Cole. I really respect y'all's opinion. I would like for y'all to get teams and look at the schedules and come up with your own value, like a 1 from 100. What do you grade this game? What do you grade this game? What do you grade this game? And I would be willing to guarantee you, with y'all's educated opinions and grading games, y'all would not agree with the strength of schedule metric because it does not always make sense, and I feel like it's very flawed.
But I think when you just put the math to it, it evens that out. So for you who would look at it as, oh, they were road games, or it was this record when they played them, or they had this guy healthy, whatever that was, and Greg who just looks at it as margin of victory, margin of loss, and I look at it in whatever way I look at it, those all come into play there to a certain extent, so that evens it out.
I don't disagree with that. I think we should use it as maybe a point, but what I'm saying, Greg, is they sell it as math, and it's not math. You cannot put a numerical value on the quality of a team. If I say that Ole Miss is 77 overall, that is an opinion. It is not math. And
wait, stop. Domer, stop for 1 second. Did you just say Ole Miss at 8-2 is not a fact?
No. I said put in a numerical value on them, like saying they are 80 points in the formula. Like every metric, we have to talk about the formula. And unless we understand the actual formula, how the math is actually calculated, it's flawed. And like I told you, I asked the gentleman, he was on the radio. I talked to him. He told me that they
It's
give
a question
the
to
same
the guy
value
that was on the radio with us.
So no, I don't. I
Yeah,
think it was
before y'all got
It's
married,
another show. It's another show. But Domer, here's the other part. This is why I love taking overall opponent record and sharing it on Twitter, because people's brains explode. They can't handle it. They hate it, and that's fine. But it doesn't mean that it's not factual information. Like, people get really mad at it. And they'll be like, 77, 77, it's garbage. It's actually the record of the teams that they have played. You cannot debate it. It is factual information.
Yeah,
but people get angry at it. The same way you're saying you get angry at this number that's put together about what teams have done and have not done. You can't say it's an opinion, though. It's not an opinion. It isn't. An opinion is something that people just come up with on their own and give. Now, how educated or non-educated it is up to you.
Yeah. Have y'all ever looked into the FPI?
I've looked deeply into the Rubik's Cubelic formula.
I don't care.
And we've done a lot of homework on that. Albeit it is massively flawed this year. Historically, it has been great.
But the FPI is one of these formulas as well. And it's proof of concept, extremely inaccurate. Not an opinion, proof of concept. So what we have to talk about is the formula. And all I'm saying is this is what I would like for us to do. I respect y'all, and I think y'all have very good – at the end of the year, let's do this. Let's get the 12 teams, and let's go through the games ourselves. And let's say a point system of 100, 0 to 100. And if you say, like, Notre Dame beat Texas A&M on the road, let's give that 80 points. We'll come up with our own formula. I'll be willing to guarantee it does not match up with that strength of schedule metric. It won't even be close.
Well, I don't work for PFF, so I don't really want to put that formula together. So it's
not hard. See, you know what I think? I think people don't want to think of themselves, and I think these committee members don't actually want to take the time to go and actually look at the schedule. So they want somebody to think for them. They want a number stuck in their face, and they don't really want to go and look at it. And all I'm saying is you can look at it.
That's one way to look at it. Listen, I actually see a little bit of where you're coming from, but I also think that's one way to look at it. I'm going to say again, I think the reason that the formula, as you are referencing it, is put together is to take people who think like you, people who think like me, people who think like John, people who think like Greg, and try for it all to meet in the middle somewhere. I think that's what it's designed to do. And so you're going to be mad at it sometimes. Greg's going to be mad at it sometimes. But it's at least something that tries to hit in the middle, and it can be a reference point, not the only thing, not an automatic qualifying point, a reference point just to look at. And then we start basing our opinions on everything else.
I don't mind it being a reference point, Cole. I don't mind it being a reference point. So what I do mind is when we sell it as truth, or when we say the math. It's not. It's really a formula that'll somewhat give us a general idea. But at the end of the day, we should still actually pull up the schedule and use our God-given brain to analyze it.
What formula is not math?
It's not math.
No. You just said it's a formula, and then you said it's not math. Now, I failed math 3 years in a row in high school, so I'm probably not the one for this argument. However,
this is what I'm trying to tell you.
Based on my limited education in it, formulas are math.
Exactly, and that's why I'm telling you it's not math.
John tells me I have to let you go. That's not my fault. He made me do that.
The formula said that it was time for us to take a break.
I still don't understand what
the math say, though.
To make. That's my problem with Domer. He goes around in circles. I still just listen to him talk for 6 minutes and still have no idea what he's trying to say. That he doesn't like strength of schedule. That he doesn't like the fact that we have to measure efficiencies. Look, in a perfect world, you know what I'd do, Domer? You want my opinion on how to fix it? SEC and Big Ten just pull away and stop pretending that this Power 5, G5, 134 FBS team world matters. Like, just pull away, and then we can do it with NFL scheduling model, and we can be fine, and it'll make a whole lot more sense. We'll get rid of the tiebreakers, we'll crown a conference champion, we'll have a national champion, but we're not going to do that because we have teams like Notre Dame that refuse to play by other people's rules. They want to play in the independents. We need to pretend like there's egalitarianism in college football, like the ACC is equitable to that of the Big Ten. And the Big Ten's equitable to that of the MAC, and the MAC is equitable to that of the Pac-12. Both teams in the Pac-12. Like, we're not. Like, we continue to pretend like everyone's on the same playing field. We continue to pretend like everybody's the same. Like, If
I
you're
think
gonna
what
have
he's
a
trying to tell
frustration
you,
with-
Greg, I think what he's trying to tell us is math is biased.
Well, yeah,
That's what he's trying
exactly.
to
Like
say.
if he has a frustration about strength of schedule, how about having a frustration and airing your grievance about the fact that we try to pretend that 134 teams are playing the same sport? Like, you want to have a problem with how we evaluate things? Let's just quit trying to pretend like everyone's under the same set of rules or everyone has the same access to resources. Like, they're not. So, like, you want a problem with how we're judging teams as it relates to strength of schedule? How about having a problem with the fact that some teams' budget on a quarterback is more than an entire athletic department's budget, and yet they still all play FBS football? Explain to me how that makes sense.
I'll explain to you what math makes sense. Gusty Goulas has served over 3,000 home buyers and sellers in the greater Birmingham area. Also, if you Google Gusty Goulas Group, you'll see over 830 five-star Google reviews. It's not a formula. It's not fake. It's real. It's not even biased. Gusty Goulas Group, since 2012, has been recognized both nationally and locally as Greater Birmingham, Alabama's #1 team in homes sold. And I don't know what formula they use for that, but I know it's accurate. I can promise you. Call 205-542-1996. Also not a formula, a phone number. 205-542-1996 to talk with the Gusty Goulas Group about what they can do for you today. Go to gustygoulasgroup.com or call 205-542-1996 and start packing. Back with more Mac and Cube next. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Next segment, we will get bad about it. We celebrate individual greatness once a week, and we do not care what the outcome of the game was. I feel like the more important question for Domer would have been, since he has answers for a lot of different things. And we were talking about this during the break, and I'll be willing to bet that a listener knows. Hell, David Hoover's on hold. He might know. Why is a set of stairs referenced as a flight of stairs? Honestly, I have no idea. I've never even begged to ask the question.
It's a fair question.
Greg, what was the word that you just used with Domer in our previous segment also?
What word?
It sounded similar to
Egalitarianism?
diverticulitis,
Yeah.
but that wasn't it.
Egalitarianism or what was it?
First of all, that's not like a crazy big word.
That kind of is.
No.
None of us knew what it was.
It's basically equal opportunity. Like egalitarianism is like
Egalitarianism.
like you believe in like spreading the wealth and equality, philosophical belief in human equality.
I feel like that was like in the 1800s. Somebody said "egad," and some guy was going to get killed with a guillotine, and they're like "egalitarianism." Just made it up.
That word is not like that advanced. I would hope.
I've never heard that word in my life.
Show. Never, not once have I heard it on the sports show.
Sports show.
Or
I've never heard that word in vocabulary.
It's not that deep. It's
Damien, tweet a poll question. Have you ever heard and then that word? I have no idea. Greg, if you can spell it, I'll really be impressed.
Egalitarian?
Ism.
Egalitarianism.
Attaboy.
Egalitarian.
Right.
That's it? He nailed it?
Yeah.
Okay, Rhodes.
Country of origin?
Egalitarianism? I don't know. Europe. I have no idea.
I don't know either. I'm just asking.
Egalitarianism, it means that everybody's equal, and we just
French.
pretend that everybody's equal, and that's just not reality. As much as you'd like for it to be that way in college football, it's not. It's just not that way.
Philosophy based on equality, namely that all people are equal and deserve equal treatment in all things.
So American. That's all he had to say.
Well, applicable in where he was going with it in reference to, yes, a lot of people do believe that it should all be the same. And I think common sense tells us it is not across the board. And it's getting further from being that. I think that is absolutely the truth.
So was it used appropriately?
Yes.
Since you guys are dogging me?
Nobody's dogging you.
We just,
If anything, we're dogging ourselves for never have heard of that word
Pulp
before.
Fiction, big brain bratting us out here, man.
Yeah, it's just
Well,
listen. Sometimes we make fun of you for being impressive because we're disappointed with ourselves, and that's just the way that it goes. I've never heard it, so that's it.
You guys are ridiculous.
All right, David Hoover wants to talk formulas. Opinion or fact,
guys.
Dave?
What's that?
Opinion or fact? A formula.
A formula would be an opinion, I believe. And the only reason I say that is you can devise a formula in many different ways, depending on your desired outcome.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. But look, I think Homer, he's paranoid. I think he thinks the committee is devising a formula to go against Notre Dame itself. But that's not true. All he can do is come up with a formula like record, strength of schedule, head to head. You put it in there. It is what it is, and then everybody plays that formula, and that's just the way it is.
Yep, I agree. Sorry, David, we had a little bit of bad connection there. We do appreciate the call. But like Greg pointed out, Notre Dame currently strength of schedule is pretty good, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't think that would be devised to be working against them based on where they are at this moment. So that
They're 73rd. I mean, it's not great, but it's not like terrible.
not 100.
Like even if Indiana was in the 60s, like and yes, and honestly, Notre Dame's schedule will strengthen. They have Army and they have SC left on the schedule, so it's only going to go up from here. I just wouldn't worry about it. Like I really wouldn't worry about it. We've talked a lot about Texas's strength of schedule. Like Texas's strength of schedule is 55. That's terrible. I mean, seriously, in the SEC, that's really not good. So it's applied in every direction, I think. It should be.
Yep, we'll see. Okay. All right, we got to get to a break. Before we do that, I want to tell you about Backyard Adventures. If you need a playground in your backyard, go to Cabo Valley Road. They've got them put together. You can see how they look. Your kids can go ahead and play on them, jump, climb, swing, slide, all the different options. And then Jeff and the guys will customize it for you. We took our kids out there, let them play. They said, we want the monkey bars. We want the rock wall. Jeff said, cool. They came and put it together. That's right. All of it. Every bit of it. They put the entire thing together in our backyard. We didn't have to lift a single tool. Jeff and the guys did it. It's warranted. It's fantastic quality work. And it's not just playgrounds. Basketball goals also, GMAC, from Backyard Adventures.
Yeah, they'll do a great job with the basketball goal. Our kids were out actually shooting some hoops last night. Basketball season's around the corner. They've been watching some hoops at night, wanting to watch some basketball, so that's been exciting to know that they're starting to get excited about what's coming up, and the basketball goal has allowed us to go outside and use it and to spend time outside and be active. So very grateful to Jeff and the guys for all they've provided me and my family. Call them a day. You can go down and see them off Cobb Valley Road, or you can go online at backyardalabama.com.
All right, when we come back, we celebrate it once a week, individual greatness regardless of outcome. We get bad about it right after this. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Following on my latest tweets into the show, at Mac and Cube, you can always be a part. Never thought I'd tune in and hear at Cole Cubelic teaching school. Egalitarianism? Our formulas facts? Can't wait to hear what else is on his teaching plan for today. I'm learning oligarchy.
Weren't we told like a couple years ago there was a big movement that said that math is biased?
I thought we were going to quit teaching it. Yeah, I don't know if they said it's biased, but actually, Gomer's the one that just told us math is biased.
Math is biased, and we can no longer teach it. Like there was a big movement a couple years ago that supported that, which is hilarious.
Where the hell were they in 1995? That's when I needed them, and they weren't there for me. I'm for it. I think all math is absolutely not good. Basically, because I can't do it. All right, let's get bad about it. All right, I'm going to the NBA.
What?
Exactly where y'all thought I was going.
What?
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander last night, 45 points, career high, 9 assists, 5 steals, 14th career 40-point game.
Oh, wow.
14th. Who knew he had 14 40-point games? Tying him for third most in franchise history.
Behind Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook.
Well, okay. Trails those two, but tied with one other.
It's like James Harden.
No.
I know.
He wasn't that
Sean
one.
Kemp.
Perkins.
Sean Kemp, I'm not sure, had a 40-point
Ray
game,
Allen.
but 40 dunks in the game, but yeah. Dale Ellis.
Oh.
But great guesses all the way around.
ODE. Okay.
Also, one other from they did win 134-126. That doesn't really matter. Spurs also beat the Kings 116-96. Victor Wembanyama, 34 points, 14 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 blocks, 7th career game with 30 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. Also, 5th straight game with 3 or more blocks. That ties the second longest streak of his career. Victor Wembanyama was.
About it.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was.
About it.
There you go.
Wow. Nicely done.
And
All
y'all
right,
say
let's
we don't
go.
talk NBA.
Yeah. Catch the thrill. No, I can't say much. NBA ratings are going to trounce my game this weekend, but I digress. All right, moving in.
You in a dark spot, dog. You good?
All right. Tell you who wasn't in a dark spot. That was Riley Mills, defensive tackle for Notre Dame. Defensive tackle, and he was going against the 134th ranked offense and an offensive line that just fired their coach, but probably fired their coach because of this. 3 sacks by Riley Mills at D tackle. That is not easy
great.
to do. He also had 5 tackles for loss. Pretty impressive performance for the gigantor Riley Mills, who's about 6'6", 310. He is a big dude. He even looks bigger because Howard Cross, his defensive tackle running mate's like 5'11".
A little undersized.
So
yeah.
Riley Mills, defensive tackle in Notre Dame, was
About it.
You bet he was.
also adding to the defensive love, Princely Uman Mielen for Ole Miss, just working, absolutely working the left tackle all game long. 2 sacks in the process, but I can't just give it to him. I also had to give it to the other defensive end, Jared Ivey, who had 2 sacks in the game as well. But Jared Ivey also tipped a pass that was intercepted a little bit further downfield. So Jared Ivey and Princely Uman Mielen combined, the defensive ends for Ole Miss were
About it.
You bet they were. I went to the ACC showdown between Cal and Wake Forest. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback for Cal, 40 for 56, 385 yards, 2 touchdowns, and added 51 yards on the ground and a tutty as well. Fernando Mendoza, quarterback for Cal, was.
About it.
And for me, Quinn Ewers, 19 of 27, 333 yards and 5 touchdowns. Also, Caden Hauser, quarterback, ECU, 17 of 22, 343, also with 5 touchdowns. Both of them were.
About it.
A lot of people are just going to tell you that Quinn was just thrown to the backside of the backfield, though.
That's what they say?
except for the 3 touchdowns he threw that were like 20 yards downfield.
Oh, he had a great day. He looked good. Accurate as well. I might have a bonus bout about it when we come back, but Austin Price is going to update us on the health status of Nico Iamaleava next. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Before we get to Austin Price, quickly, bonus bout about it. 9 a.m., hour number 3 underway right here on Jocks 94.5, Tuesday, November 12th. We've had Alvin Henderson in bout about it multiple times this year. You guys remember him?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, he surpassed 10,000 career rushing yards. He breaks the Alabama all-time career rushing yard record. Okay? Now, his record-breaking accolades include most consecutive 100-yard games, rushing yards in a season, most consecutive 300-yard games in a career, most consecutive 300-yard games, most touchdowns in a game, most touchdowns in consecutive games, most total touchdowns in a season, most points scored in a game, most points scored in a season, most points in a career, all-time leading rusher in a season, most yards in the playoffs, highest yards per carry in a career. I would say Alvin Henderson is
About it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I think he deserves to be
1A
in there,
product,
so.
baby.
Austin Price joining us now on the Buyers Right hotline. Austin, the big news in Knoxville right now is around Tennessee quarterback Nico Iamaleava. What can you give us the latest as far as his health status moving into this weekend?
Well, guys, it's just a matter of, can he pass concussion protocol? If he is in concussion protocol, I mean, things have kind of been buttoned up on that end. Like, everybody will tell you he's had concussion symptoms, but he had a concussion. Like, was he labeled with a concussion? Tennessee's out on the practice field right now. They don't practice on Monday. They have meetings and a walkthrough, so it's easy for him to be amongst his teammates during those instances. Like Josh Heupel said yesterday, that he was out with us. Is he on the practice field today? Is he on the practice field tomorrow? I think those are key questions right now. We just don't know the answer because they're out on the practice field as we speak. But he did have, concussion symptoms coming out.
Let's try again, John. Get him back. Just bad phone connection there from Austin Price, but sounds like head injury, GMAC, for Nico Iamaleava. But this is a massive game this weekend. Sometimes with this protocol, though, it's a wait and see. There's not really a way to rush it. There's not really a way to have extra treatment, anything like that, to be able to get right.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out when it went down. I think it was
number 2 hit
on
him like the second quarter. He was kind of rolling to his right.
Yeah, I think it was the roll to the right. Last hit he took, he kind of lands on the right side of his head. So I'm assuming that's when he kind of got dinged. It's not good. I mean, because these things are very situational. The attention to head injuries has grown by leaps and bounds, and it's very different from when you and I played. Just a lot more focused on it, a lot more criteria that you have to get over in order to be eligible to play again. So something worth watching, but it's not a situation that you want, that's for sure.
No, you don't want to have to deal with this heading into this game, and obviously not something that a quarterback with mobility as well that you want to have to be concerned about, worried about down the road, as far as him being somebody who's going to try and help you win football teams. So it's we'll see. Try to get Austin back, and if we can get the phone connection just a little bit better and talk to him about exactly what may be happening this game. But when you look at it, the matchup, I think the physicality, Greg, is as close as I can remember it between these two in quite some time. And that's maybe why I feel like there is real optimism for Tennessee in this game, as opposed to the last couple of years where, people kind of looked at it as, well, Tennessee can score, Georgia might play good defense, but still they can go out there and outscore them. And I don't know if that optimism was as genuine as it is this year heading into this matchup.
Well, explain to me this. Whether Nico goes or not, do you feel confident in Georgia being able to block him?
No. I thought James Pierce had his best game of the year last week. And
he's been coming on.
19's coming on. 90's coming on out off the edge. I mean, it's not just him out there anymore. So we know what the interior guys can do, and they got 6 or 7 of those they can roll in. They can all be a problem. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like this is – I don't feel confident that Georgia can handle what Tennessee's going to throw at them up front. No. It's not going to be a hand the ball off and go right at them. It's not going to be a drop back game where you can just allow Carson Beck to operate in the pocket. It's not going to happen against this group.
I just have a hard time thinking that right now is not a get right recipe. I do worry about when you look at their inability at times to hit some downfields. That is of concern. I do think they can, and I think that Nico last week was better. But if for whatever reason he reverts back to his October self, that is to be concerned about. But we'll see. I mean, the pass rush is real for Georgia. It wasn't last week, but I think Tennessee's tempo could neutralize that some and maybe keep them not as crazy and not as creative. So it'll just be really interesting to watch.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to try Austin Price again, see if phone connection might be a little bit better. Austin, just kind of finish giving us your thoughts on Nico and his health heading into this weekend.
We're trying to make the phone lines great again. I think for Tennessee, it's all about just getting him cleared. And for Nico, if he can go, it's not like an ankle or a shoulder or something like that. I mean, you're either good or you're not. And so if he's good, then I think Tennessee's offense will be just fine. He is, as Greg's pointing out, starting to round into form. You look how he played against Kentucky. You look how he played the first half against Mississippi State. And you would say that he has made some real strides from back in October when he did have some of those, deep shot opportunities where he missed as he was throwing the ball long. So I do think he's going to progress. So if Tennessee can get him back to the field, then, I think Tennessee's chances this weekend would be decent. Again, Georgia's the one team that has dominated Tennessee since Josh Heupel got to Knoxville.
I think it might be the phones altogether. I don't even think it's you, Austin, so I apologize, buddy. But
we'll give it a shot another time, and we'll just keep talking Tennessee and Georgia.
Well, what do you think about Nico's progress? I mean, if he can go, you had Tennessee 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Kentucky.
And I had him against Bama, and it felt like you and I had him in consecutive weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if there might have been a week or two in between then. Doesn't matter. But we saw him over the course of a couple weeks, and he hit a couple downfield throws, 2 against Bama. I feel like against Kentucky, it really wasn't much of a fair fight. And last week he hit a couple downfield throws. Do you feel like he's gotten better in that area?
I do. Yeah. I actually thought last week before he got hurt, he had a really good game. And the Kentucky numbers weren't massive, but he looked great. He threw the ball well. It just kind of, again, and I keep trying to tell Tennessee fans, specifically after he got hurt, the fact that you weren't going to go out and put the ball in the air 30, 40 times for the rest of that game with the backup quarterback in. But the fact that you could go in and throttle down and win that game that way, that is a massive compliment to that Tennessee football team. And for some reason, some folks just don't want to buy that, don't want to believe that, can't wrap their arms around it. They just can't grasp that is a good thing that they can go win games that way. Similar to Kentucky. That game was going a certain way. I thought Nico did some good things, played well. But the fact that you could just kind of lean on the O-line in the run game late and get that win, that was a positive. So I think he's still we just forget the fact. What's he started, Greg? 10 games, 9 games now?
Yeah, thereabouts.
I mean, 10? How did you feel like you knew it all after 9 starts? I didn't.
Yes, of course.
Well, yeah, but you also used supercalifragilisticexpialidocious in a sentence earlier today. So
I thought I was a significantly more complete player after about 10 starts or so. I just felt like a much better player. You're seeing a lot those first 7 to 10 starts, and they're going to throw things at you that you've never seen before, and you're going to get hit harder than you've ever been hit before. And the game's going to move really, really fast. But things start to settle in, I feel like. And for me, it was about 10 starts is when the lights started to go on. And I'm like, all right, I'm good. And I was a 20. I mean, he might be older than me. I don't know. Some of these kids nowadays. I was 21. I was 21 years old when I made my 10th start. So maybe it just takes these guys a little bit of time.
It takes most of us time to be able to figure some of these out. And the other part is they've been getting really different looks. I know Kane threw a couple looks at them early in that game that Alabama had not shown all year. Oklahoma had a couple looks that they had not shown. I think these coordinators understand if they can go out and just confuse him a little bit early, that it's going to probably be more beneficial to take that risk with him because he doesn't have all the experience than it does a lot of other guys. But I don't think you go into the Georgia game thinking, all right, Nico's got to hit 7 deep balls and throw for 400 to win. There's going to be an aspect of that game where you want to try to control it. Now, that doesn't mean, you also try to, win possession by 42 minutes or whatever it is, but you're going to have to win the line of scrimmage to beat Georgia. We've talked about it. That's what Ole Miss did. Like going back to what we talked about earlier in the show, what was the most impressive aspect of a team this weekend? I would say the Ole Miss defensive line and what they did to that group. And it's not just the pass rush late. Georgia cannot run the ball between the tackles. And that's because of what that defensive line was doing. So that's a bigger portion. I mean, if you think the Ole Miss defensive line is tough to deal with inside, wait till you see this Tennessee group. I promise you they're different. This is not the one that you're just going to go run inside zone on 28 times and find success. It's not happening. It just isn't. So I don't think the Keenan Peely injury, Greg, has been as big as I thought it would be. They've sort of been able to offset that a little bit better than I imagined, because I said it before the season. I said Dylan Sampson, Keenan Peely, Cooper Mays. They can't lose any of those three if they're going to contend for a national title, because those three are just different than what else they have, and they mean that much to the team. Now, obviously, quarterback, that's a whole other thing. We're not talking about that. But those are the three guys, and they've actually been able to offset the Keenan Peely injury better than I imagined they would.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think Keenan Peely, I was real concerned about that one. And I think understandably, right? Like, he was a great player and had like a little bit of,
he had
a little something to him.
Yeah,
you know
doubt.
what I mean?
No doubt. He had a little
Just
like right after the whistle, not afraid to mix it up with you. I mean, the dude looks like he's 260 when you meet him in person. He's just he's a big physical. He's 26 years old. He didn't care. And so
no, he's a grown man.
Yeah, not a lot of guys are like that.
He is a grown man for sure. And that is not the easiest thing in the world to deal with. So I do think that there's a real chance that Georgia comes out and plays their best football this weekend, but I think winning is going to require their best. They cannot show up and play anywhere near like they played last week and expect to win the game. It's just not going to happen.
That's 100% accurate. I don't think anybody would push back on it either. It's just they've got to figure some things out. And you were, how do I say this? I don't want to say complimentary, but you were nice about Carson Beck going into that Ole Miss game. And you had real concerns, but you also were very fair about, hey, this can be corrected. This can be turned around. Where are you on Carson Beck now after not just seeing that performance last week, but seeing it in person?
Well, I think that there was a few really nice throws made in that game. I'm not sitting here pressing the panic button on him. He's kind of where I thought he was. At the end of the game is hard to, I mean, it was demoralizing at the end, and like he's taking hits, and it's like at this point he's kind of in mail-it-in mode. So I'm not super concerned about him. I think the interception was a tricky one. I mean, that really was a perfectly timed. It was really a perfectly timed jump by Jared Ivey to tip the pass and get intercepted. I didn't think he made bad decisions in the game. I thought there were a couple where he probably could have pulled the trigger, but it was not egregious. They didn't lose last week because of Carson Beck. They lost for a whole host of other reasons, most notably their offensive line's inability to get any movement whatsoever in the run game, and their receivers' inability to separate on anything downfield.
Absolutely. All right, so we'll continue that conversation. A lot more time to break down Tennessee, Georgia coming up this weekend. We have plenty of time to get to that one. But before we move any further, Greg, tell our listeners about B-Dry.
Well, B-Dry has been serving Alabama and customers here in the Birmingham area for 60 years. They continue to give you the best solution to waterproof your basement, and they are going to go above and beyond to make sure that you have what you need when you need it. It's the largest waterproofing company in the country and the only company with the solution that stops all 5 ways water can enter your foundation. Go and check them out today at bdryalabama.com. You're going to get a life at the structure warranty, and you get 12 months interest-free, no payments. That's right, no payments for 12 months. So get the job done right and not pay $1 for the next calendar year. BeDryAlabama.com, or you can go to 942-1976 or BeDryAlabama.com.
All right, when we come back, more college football, getting into some of the games from over the weekend we haven't hit just yet. Next on Mac and Cube in the morning. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. College football playoff rankings show coming up tonight. GMAC will be a part of that. I want to go back through the weekend quickly. A couple of games that we just didn't hit. A couple things. I mean, there was a lot that went down that we haven't discovered or discussed just yet. Oregon took down Maryland. You said earlier you're impressed with Oregon. GMAC, they continue to roll.
Are you?
Yeah, they're fine.
Don't love them?
I have my concerns. But I actually think they're getting better. And I think they have a better feel of the offense because I still think that offense is kind of trying to mesh. And I don't think a lot of people have discussed it that way. I think there's a lot of chip stuff that's not in it. And they're kind of trying to make it all work. But the offensive line is gelling. I don't think they're a super talented group, but they're playing pretty good football together. Ohio State 45. I was looking at Ohio State Purdue is why I was going there. Yes, I have my concerns with Oregon about physicality in Dylan Gabriel in big games, but they haven't really been tested that way just yet. Like, who's the best defensive line that Oregon's played, you think?
Ohio State.
Okay. And we know, folks that listen to this show know about the concerns we have with that group. Is there one that's even close to that? Michigan?
No.
And Michigan's group has been a
so.
little bit of a letdown this year. But yeah, I'll be interested to see them against different defenses. That's my concern kind of with Oregon, but I think they're a really good team. Ohio State 45-0 over Purdue, not much to take away there. What did you make of Georgia Tech's win against Miami?
I made a lot about it in a sense that it was very similar to Vanderbilt's win over Alabama. It was the recipe that is tried and true against high-powered offenses, ball control, time of possession, third downs and fourth downs, and then turnovers. And Miami had 1 turnover. Miami was 3 of 10 on third down. They were 1 of 4 on fourth down. They had 3 turnovers on downs in plus territory, which count like turnovers. Georgia Tech had 35 minutes time of possession. Georgia Tech had
9 of 14 on third down.
9 of 14 on third down. They also had a 10-minute touchdown drive. Like, that's the recipe. It's simple as that. It's not a complicated recipe. It's not something that's hard to understand or difficult to grasp. It's pretty simple. And if you do those
them
things,
271
you
to
beat
88
teams that are better than you.
Yeah, 271 to 88 on the ground. The protection was not great for Miami. Some good pressure packages from Georgia Tech. I just go back to what we said a long time ago. It feels like a lot of backyard ball. It really does. I mean, it's just hold on for dear life, let it rip, hope for the best. And I know it's more complicated than that, but that's the way it looks a lot of times. And we knew they weren't going to be able to hold on. I said 2 weeks ago, they're going to lose just because you can't play like that every week. The percentages are not in your favor. Texas blows out Florida 49-17. Quinn Ewers looked great. Running backs looked great. It was over early, and with the backup quarterback, Florida wasn't going to be able to play that style ball. That one got out of hand quick. 14 in the first quarter, 21 in the second quarter for Texas. Sark was in his bag in that game. Penn State, Washington, 35-6. This is a pretty impressive win for Penn State, especially to be able to bounce back. I think that's when it helps you build a little bit more confidence in what they are, G-Mac.
I'm a little encouraged with what I saw from Penn State last weekend. I don't know if I'm, to the point where I'm going to pick them to go make a run in the playoff, but last week showed a little bit more creativity. If you went into that game, you know that Washington is really good at defending the tight end, among the best, and it didn't matter. So that I thought was a pretty impressive showing from from Washington. And knowing where Washington's strengths were, hey, let's just hand it to Tyler Warren. Let's go with the quarterback run game with Tyler Warren at the Wildcat quarterback. Like, they did some good things last week. I think there was something to feel good about there.
All right, Tennessee smashed Mississippi State 33-14. We mentioned Nico hurt in this game. Didn't matter. Dylan Sampson goes for 149. That's career highs in back-to-back games for him. Defense great. Again, Indiana, 20-15, Greg. They just sneaked by Michigan. And I feel like a lot of the concerns that you were throwing out about Indiana earlier in the show had a lot to do with this game in particular.
Yes. And honestly, I look at Indiana, and they should have been in cruise control. They were in a good spot. And just the second half was not good. Did you watch it by chance?
I haven't seen this one yet, no.
Yeah, well, you'll see. It's just not very good. And I'm completely and utterly underwhelmed by Michigan. So part of this has to do with what we've seen from Michigan, and part of it has to do with how good Indiana is, and it's some combination of both. And man, I am concerned. Like, I think they have a chance to get rolled this weekend. I hope they don't. I really do. I really want them to play well, and I want this to continue to be a good story, but I am concerned.
Kurt Cignetti on a gutsy win for the Hoosiers over Michigan.
Got to find a way to win. I'm sure glad we played this game at home because our fans played a big role tonight. I thought it was a great crowd. Championship teams find a way to win football games. Not all time do you get style points. And this is probably the first one we haven't gotten style points. And this is a team, and everybody thinks everybody's goal is the same. And, I can't say enough about these guys. I don't throw many bouquets out there. We all know that. But these guys have accomplished quite a bit, so I can reflect on that for tonight. And then we get back to work on Monday.
All right, so they get back to work, and BYU gets back to work as an undefeated team still, 9-0. They knock off Utah 22-21. It was a very odd ending, so odd that Mark Harlan, the Utah athletic director, decided to show up to the post-game press conference and say this.
This game was absolutely stolen from us. We were excited about being in the Big 12, but tonight I am not. We won this game. Someone else stole it from us. Very disappointed. I will talk to the commissioner. This was not fair to our team. I'm disgusted by the professionalism of the officiating crew tonight.
Big 12 fined Mark Harlan $40,000. Will issue a public reprimand. Woo! After his those comments that you just heard.
That's a lot of money.
It's also a public reprimand, Greg. Not a private one.
I ain't worried about the public reprimand. Not so worried about that one.
Here's my thing, though. I'm fine with you voicing your opinion with how you feel like an officiating crew made a mistake and how an officiating crew may have been what you believe to be wrong. I'm not sure that I'm okay with you going in there and questioning their credibility the way that he just did. You can't do that. He essentially went in there and said they cheated so they could win the game. And I almost felt like I needed to have the conversation with Mark Harlan that I had with my 4-year-old this morning in that life is not fair, Mark. Thanks for playing.
Yeah. It also was a penalty. So other than that, I don't blame them for being frustrated for the timing of said penalty and the fact that it wiped out a sack on 4th down that would have resulted in 1st and goal from the 1. But it looked like a hold to me. I went back and watched it, took a peek at it. I thought it was the correct call. Not saying you have to like it. And you know what? It must have been all that goodwill that BYU built up in their long-standing tradition of being a Big 12 member institution that gave them the benefit of the doubt in this case. That had to have been it.
5th 9-0 start to a season for BYU in program history, one of 4 teams that remain undefeated. They trail by 11 at half, largest halftime comeback since 2002. Two. That was it. All right, this one, Greg. Notre Dame 52, Florida State 3.
Ooh.
I know we wouldn't think that they should be in the top 10 to begin the season. Nobody saw this coming. To the extent that it has been, how far it has dropped, nobody thought that we would get to where we are now. Offensive coordinator fired, defensive coordinator fired, wide receiver coach fired. I mean, this is rough, man. I don't know if anybody saw anything close to this coming. Florida State, now, their 6th straight loss since the lone win of the season. 1-9, most losses in a season since 1974. They were 1-10 that year. 3rd straight loss by 20 or more. Longest such streak since 1973. When you start talking about things that happened pre-Bobby Bowden, it ain't good at Florida State. And a lot of these things that are happening with FSU right now, GMAC, are just flat out not good.
No. And it's really bad. Really, really bad. But I don't know how you fix it. I mean, I think last year and, you know, them acting like they were robbed and all this other stuff led to them feeling like they needed to kind of go above and beyond to make sure that they could contend again. So they go into the portal and, I mean, they got a bunch of people's leftovers. Like, look at the people that they took off Bama, like none of which were going to be factors in playing time this year. If anything, they took away some guys that might have been problems. It's just amazing to me that they're as bad as they are. I mean, it really is. But I think it's self-inflicted. Like, they can blame only themselves for this, for the pity party that they threw after the game and how they've treated the ACC and how they've kind of handled everything in the last few years. Like, this is self-inflicted completely.
Yeah, I think we'll just leave it at that. We'll move on. I'm interested to know where you are in Colorado right now. 41-27 over Texas Tech. I know Texas Tech was a team you had a lot of respect for going into this one. They get to 7-2 on the season. Shador goes for 291, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but may have been the defense that was, especially the defense late, that was pretty impressive for Colorado in this game. That 7-2 record, by the way, tied for the best start to a season through 9 games since 2000. So all of a sudden now they're kind of in the mix here, Greg. And
kind of.
Yeah.
They're in control of their own destiny to get to the college football playoff.
Well, there you go. That would mean they're in the mix.
It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, they got to win out, obviously, but they went out. They go to the Big 12 title. They're currently the tiebreaker for second right now. And if they win out, they're in good shape. And their record's not bad. I mean, they got 4 wins against teams that are above 500, including your Colorado State Rams.
It's a good one.
So Texas Tech was probably their best win against Power 5 competition to date, and do it at their place. It was a bad matchup for Texas Tech. It really was. But that was a good win, a solid win. So it's 7-2. Colorado's cooking with gas and should be a decent-sized favorite in each of their remaining games and should probably win out.
Utah at Kansas, Oklahoma State, who they have left. Coach Prime on winning each week to try to get to a championship.
We don't change with the stakes. Like what we're doing right now, we planned on it. We didn't plan on losing 2 games. We didn't plan on those things. We planned on winning. We plan on winning each week. We're not looking for down the street or down the road to the championship, because if we look that far, we'll never reach our destination of preparing tomorrow, practicing, if I decide to practice, depending on how this plane ride is going to be. So I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them, but our expectations are truly our expectations.
So, Coach Prime there on the expectation of winning a championship. Travis Hunter had 99 receiving yards, 1 receiving touchdown. First FBS player with 1,500 career receiving yards and 5 interceptions over the last 30 seasons. Coach Prime also on some of the slow starts they've had in first halves.
It's almost like they got to get hit in the face. They got to get slapped. You know, they got to feel it. They got to feel the flow of the game, and I don't know why we're like that, because we do everything in our power to, even the way we script practices to get started, and the emphasis is on let's get out to a good start, because we knew if we got out to a good start, the sky's the limit. Every game that we've gotten out to a great start, we've been very strong. Victory margin, I think, has been about at least 14 points when we got out to a good start. But we came on in. We came on in and did a great job at the end.
So they get the win either way, and like Greg said, Colorado right there in the thick of things as we head towards the last 3 weeks of the regular season. Scary to hear that. Scary to hear that.
We're sad.
Well, if you're sad, your CBD store can help. They have products for everything. Arthritis, anxiety, gut health, skincare, weight loss. The Trim by SunMed in stock now at the largest brick-and-mortar CBD retailer on planet Earth. Skincare for your pets as well. Arthritis for your pets. They've helped a couple pets in my household with arthritis. They can help yours. Gut health for those pets as well. If they have anxiety when the bad weather comes through, they have treats that can help them with that also. Same for you. Right there at your CBD store, first company to have USDA certified organic oil supplements. They've got the stamp seal on those products. Go check out one of their 3 locations, Highway 280 by Bailey Brothers, 150 by the Cage in Cleveland, Trussell just off 459 and now downtown in 5 Points. Your CBD store where good health hits home. All right, when we come back, a little bit more on the college football weekend that was next on Mac and Cube in the morning.
Welcome back, McElroy, Cubelic in the morning. Jocks 94.5, 9:36 here, Tuesday, November 12th. A playoff show tonight. Look forward to that. Look forward to reacting with you guys tomorrow here on Mac and Cube in the morning. One thing that you never have to react to are the incredibly low prices at Bill Smith Buick GMC. The reaction there is always like, wow, how the heck do you price something like this? How is it this good? Well, you'll understand that when you have inventory like that and you have as many cars on the lot as they have, and they sell as many as they do, they can charge you less than other dealers. They're also in Coleman, so their operation cost is less. So they push that on toward their customers. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers, because at Bill Smith, you have a better experience and you pay less. You can go get a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT, brand new, more than $13,000 off the sticker. That's $54,360 is what you'll get it for. That's a deal that you just won't find anywhere else. So go and check them out right up the road in Coleman, I-65, X310, Highway 31, or you can shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
I got a question kind of off topic here that I wanted to ask you guys, not necessarily college football related. Are we watching this fight Friday night?
Oh, Tyson Paul.
Is there another one on?
I'll try to tune in. Just because I want to see Mike Tyson absolutely, I ain't gonna say to kill him, but I do want him to inflict pain on Jake
You
Paul.
understand how that works though, right?
How?
Tell me the last guy that lasted a long time, that most people, all they wanted was to see him get knocked out, got knocked out. Because people rooted for Tyson to do the knocking out.
God.
Now, Tyson Holyfield, the second time around after he bit his ear, a lot of people wanted to see Mike go down again. That was it. But hey, let's think to some of the guys that people have wanted to see knocked out for a long time. Like it took Conor a long time to get knocked out. A lot of people wanted him knocked out. Floyd never got touched. And people lined up and paid a lot of money to watch that for a lot of years. Yeah. So now Jake Paul is that guy. So I'm just warning you guys that are taking that mentality right there. It's probably not going to happen. I'm just letting you know.
I know, man.
I'm just telling you. History tells you that that's probably not going to happen.
I just want Iron Mike to dip back into his old days. If he finds
is he 50 or older than 50?
I think he's closer to 60 than he is 50.
I think he's like
57.
Mike Tyson, I think, is like 50.
I mean, when you see the videos and everything, it looks
58.
like
58. He's 58.
Yeah.
Come on.
But if he can just find just a little sliver of Iron Mike, oh my God.
He's not going to. He's 58 years old, dude. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Seriously, how dumb can you possibly be if you think he's going to look anything like the guy that was in the ring?
All the NFL teams that kept
kept
signing Jeff George for years, thinking that one of these days that giant arm's going to figure it out, and it never figured out. It's just
imagine that.
It's not. I would love to see it too. I'm just I'm telling myself there's no way it can happen. And then on top of that, we're probably going to watch Tyson get hammered and go down. Get ready for that too. I'm just saying, start getting yourself ready for that.
That's why I don't think I'm going
This
to
is
watch
a complete money grab. Like this is made for entertainment. Like if you're expecting this to be consumable and or compelling, you're wasting your money and your time. This is a complete money grab.
It's on Netflix, right? So we don't have to pay any more money. I mean, we're paying for it because we're paying for Netflix. But
well, I'm not saying that you need to. I'm not saying you need to spend money on it. I'm saying the reason why this fight is existing is because Mike Tyson and Jake Paul want and or need money. They want money. Like that's why they're doing it. And it's not at all going to be compelling action. Not at all. So
you don't think there'll be any part of it that'll be interesting in any way, shape,
I'd
form,
rather
or
watch
fashion?
SmackDown. At least SmackDown's involving athletes that are in their prime.
Who's in SmackDown now?
Who cares? It's better than what we're getting.
Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that's all I
Is
got.
he the
Roman
headliner?
Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That's all I need.
Roman Reigns is in it? I thought
If
he
he's
was
there,
like
if he's
he was
there.
like big time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd rather watch Survivor.
SmackDown feels
I'd
like
rather
the
watch
Mac.
Love is Blind than this Jake Paul. If they have a ton of people sign up for it, it's proof of concept and they're going to keep like jamming things like this down our throat.
No, Greg. The proof of concept has been created. It's there. Jake's been getting big money for these fights. That's not going to.
No one says he has, but
This
it's
one would be
but at
bigger
least
money.
when he's at least prior to this one, he's fought people that are not, 60 years old. I can live with him fighting people that are 41.
So
at least you're 4 or 5 years removed.
You're
from your-
frustrated at where Tyson is in this whole thing
Right.
because you don't.
It's a
you think that's not
complete
going to
charade.
Okay.
Yes. Like, I got nothing but love for Mike Tyson of the 90s. And yeah, he was funny in The Hangover. Great. But like, I don't care about anything that he does in the ring at this point of his career and or life. And frankly, I'm kind of sad that he's in the ring.
So you're not going to watch it.
58 years old.
You won't even watch it.
No, I will not even dare.
What
There's
time
some things
does it
that I just
start?
won't click because I just can't. I just can't under any circumstances click it.
What
Can't.
time does it start?
I think 9.
Eastern. Is there an undercard?
I hadn't heard one. I hadn't seen anybody else on the card.
Preliminary card 5:30 Eastern. Main card 8 Eastern.
4:30. I'll be on Eastern time, so we're good. 5:30. They start fighting. Anybody we've heard of on the undercard?
I haven't looked. Well, I guess I can see it. I'll give him
Some of these offshoot fights, you never get anybody. Like I remember when Roy Jones Jr. was a little bit past his prime and he would kind of do his own things. Like there was never anybody on the undercards that you would even want to pay any attention to. Not that a lot of fights ever do, other than UFC put people on the undercards that you want to pay attention to.
Yeah.
I can't remember a boxing match that had somebody on undercard maybe once that I wanted to watch. It doesn't happen often.
All right. Looks like there are 6 matches.
Oh boy, here we go.
dang.
Give us these names.
Niraj Goyat versus
In.
Winder Houston Nunez.
Greg's in now.
Bruce Carrington versus Dana Coolwell. That's a featherweight belt.
Now
Lucas
some
Body
knockout power there.
versus
the
Armando
90-pounders.
Casamonica. That's a lightweight belt.
In.
Shadisha Green versus Melinda Watpool for the vacant WBO super middleweight.
Women's title.
Yes.
Yeah.
You didn't sound confident there.
I'm just reading.
Okay.
I'm taking.
If
it,
they
hoping for
win
the
that,
best.
then they get a chance to be thought of being put in the raffle to fight on an undercard for the women's title.
Raffle.
Is it the raffle?
So it's a trinket game. They get a raffle
Yes,
ticket.
exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Mario Barrios versus Abel Ramos.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, undisputed lightweight title bout, and then
Okay.
Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, heavyweight bout. Everything else has got a title on the line, and then old guy versus fat guy.
I like that they try to put belts on it to make us more interested.
Oh yeah.
Like, hold on, featherweight belt?
Undisputed lightweight, WBC welterweight,
Yep.
WBO super middleweight, a lightweight, a featherweight, and a middleweight.
Has anyone ever competed for a disputed title?
I think LSU and USC did some time ago.
We get a lot of people going for undisputed championships in boxing, but I've never heard someone competing for a disputed championship.
Are you suggesting that undisputed championships are overrated and disputed championships are underrated?
Well, I do know, like, a lot of times you have someone who has, like, the WBO belt but doesn't have the other belt, so they would not be considered the undisputed champion. But I don't know how one belt can be the undisputed champion of that belt. Like, you can't share a belt, can you? I would imagine not.
Also, isn't it
I mean, I guess in, like, when you're flying, you could get the extender and, like, you could both use your same clips if you wanted to.
Although, isn't it a cummerbund and not a belt?
Kind of depends.
Okay,
On, the older ones were, for sure.
okay.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes. The ones
For
that
sure.
looked like they were all about,
Yeah,
they
like
had
Trinidad's
like
was
elastic in
definitely-
there.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure. All right. So
show.
maybe put a poll question up for that one, Damien. Are you watching that Friday night? I'll flip over to it just to see because I have Netflix.
No, you're
so
not.
I have Netflix. Why would I not just go watch it to see?
Because
Who we got
you
Friday
are-
night?
you
Who's
are
playing Friday night?
proving- You are
Wyoming at
lining
Colorado
Jake Paul's
State.
pockets by doing so.
North Texas, UTSA, UCLA, Washington, and Houston, Arizona.
UCLA Washington's got some intrigue now.
That's 9 Eastern, so 8 o'clock. So it'll start maybe halfway through the second pack.
Yeah, we'll
third
get
fight.
it right there at halftime. We can
Flip over and see what happens.
Yep. I'll Greg can say whatever he wants. I'm gonna check it out.
That's on you. You have blood on your hands.
Yes.
You have blood on your hands for supporting this.
Sorry, Mike, that I helped make you rich again. What do we think Tyson's getting for this? 2?
Just 2?
I bet
I was
more
thinking
than
10. Yeah, I was thinking something pretty thick.
No.
No.
I don't know.
You got to have. What's
Tyson,
that thing I taught you about? The L word?
I hate to tell you this, Damian, but Mike Tyson ain't the draw here. You may think he is, but he is not.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of
that-
people don't want to hear that and don't understand that. And I don't like that because I don't like the other guy, but he is the draw. Make no mistake.
Yeah. We want to, do we need to do another leverage lesson, Damian?
Sounds like it.
Do we need to walk through? Tell me who's knocking down the door to put Tyson on their card. Don King? Who's desperate to get Mike Tyson going? Honestly. Oh gosh, got to put Mike Tyson on the card this week, guys. Got to sell some tickets and some subs. If he was a big draw, I can promise you Bob Arum and Top Rank would have him right now. But he's not. So he's not. I bet you he's making $1 million.
JD tweets in, they don't call it a disputed title, they call it an interim championship.
Well, that
We know how interims go in our world.
feels fake.
Oh, boy.
Hey, some survive. Brent Key, Dabo Sweeney. It's not always a bad thing.
That's true, yeah.
Occasionally it works out.
Not a big fan of the
Sometimes
interim
you're Cornell.
title, though. Yes.
Hey, they said the reported part
But
of
hey,
guarantees.
he got to exit the tunnel with Cube.
Oh, John Mack, here you go.
In a bona fide propaganda.
This may be a first
for
on the
Auburn
show
athletics.
right here. This may be a first on the show. John Trill tweets in, can we move on from Tyson talk? I find myself agreeing with @Greg McElroy, and that sends me to a spiral of self-loathing, and I don't have enough product. I didn't know if I should say that.
Good.
Sometimes
we
I
can
try to censor myself.
probably find common ground on more things than John Trill wants to acknowledge, but that's okay.
Butch Worley tweets in, I love that GMAC has joined our Get Off My Lawn team. I'm with him on this one, but also with Damian wanting Tyson to jack him. Also with you thinking it won't happen. It is not going to happen.
I don't know. But they said, hey, the purse is $40 million for Jake Paul, $20 million for Mike Tyson.
But that's according
I'll
to
take
Jake
the under.
Paul.
Yeah. And Shador Sanders NIL is worth $10 million. I'll take the under.
What does
Jake
On3
Paul
have
is-
Tyson's valuation for this fight?
Yes.
Say what?
I need to know what his NIL
what's
is.
his valuation for this
Hadn't
fight?
seen the graphic yet.
I need to know that. $658 million.
Once do we get somebody texts in and says they're getting $30 million each?
There's no way Jake Paul is splitting
I'll
this
take
down
the
the
under.
middle. 0.0000% chance on that. We'll discuss it more next on Mac and Cube. All right, I have an interesting thought for Greg McElroy here in just a moment. We'll get to that in a second. 9:53 a.m. Tuesday, November 12th. G-Mac, tell our listeners about Crocker Moving Services.
Well, Crocker, they're a local company owned by an Iraq War veteran, Eric Crocker. Crocker believes in hiring movers you can trust to complete full background checks and run drug tests on every single employee. These are good guys, and you can trust them in your home. Whether you need your whole home packed up and move, your company headquarters moved across country, or you just want them to come rearrange your living room, these guys got you covered. They also do deliveries for furniture that you purchased and need to get to your home. So call or visit them online today for a free quote. The website is crockermovingservices.com. It's crockermovingservices.com. Support your veterans by choosing Crocker Moving Services for your next move.
All right, Joe Moore Award semifinalist list is out, Greg. One fan base is really mad. We will run through the list, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree if teams should or should not be on said list. Ready?
Ready.
Alabama.
Yes.
Army.
Yes.
Wow. Even though he hates Army, it's good. Feel good about that one.
I just don't think Army is deserving of a playoff ranking spot, but I'm fine with their line being on the Joe Moore Award.
Indiana.
Yes.
Iowa.
No.
They're good. I'll push back on that one. Notre Dame.
Okay. Did you watch last week?
Oh boy.
We're not, it's body of work, Greg. Notre Dame.
Yes.
Oh, this is going to be bad.
Say it.
Ohio State.
Oh boy.
Joel Klatt was pushing for this on the broadcast.
Really happy for Joel. Glad he got his.
I know. Yeah.
How? That's my question. How?
Oregon.
Fine with it.
Tennessee.
What? Don't worry. You know, are we just evaluating guard to guard? We're not worried about tackles anymore?
Texas.
Fine with it.
Tulane.
Hadn't seen enough tape, but probably okay with it.
Okay. So is,
Actually,
6 out of 8?
Yeah,
6 out of 8, we're good?
out.
Okay.
That's not bad. All right.
Super good.
All right.
The good news is, if there's one thing I learned about that, is that that you don't really need tackles.
Oh boy.
So that's big. I guess we're playing arena ball, where you just have two guards and a center.
We'll cover that in the spring again. Don't worry.
We got that one covered.
Hopefully
That's all we need. That's all we need to make sure that we're in the. Wow. How is Tennessee? Seriously.
If you lack energy or you're getting poor sleep, if you feel on edge, it could be the effects of low testosterone. Game Day Men's Health can help you today. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com and you can schedule a free consultation that'll get you a free testosterone test, free PSA test. You get a baseline where your health is, and they can have different things, different options for you to make you feel better. Also, weight loss programs right now at Game Day Men's Health. They want to help you get your health in order at Game Day Men's Health. Minimal upfront cost for the programs they offer. Mention Cube. Save 10% on any program that they offer at Game Day Men's Health. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com today. Tell them you heard about them right here on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning.
If tackles don't matter, why is Auburn not in the mix?
Hey,
I think we know the answer to that.
Hey.
I don't feel like I have to answer that for you. I feel like you've seen the
Ohio
tape on
State and
that.
Tennessee. Don't worry about your left tackle. Not important.
What I didn't get to is what teams you would have on the list that were left off, if you would like to go there.
I'll just because so they can infiltrate your mentions. I'll put Miami in.
Thanks for that.